What the hell's going on? Why did it play the damn theme song?
Because
I everybody that it stopped.
Because I have another fucking text message.
Right, I'm gonna try again.
When you all must have heard I'm a real nerd. People say I'm a fool, but they never got the news that I'm a wild one. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child. Oh yeah, I'm a wild one. You better turn it up, better keep the channel down, cause you're watching Vilemike and his real wild child.
Not the same if I don't play the Vilemike theme song.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what happened. I hit the button for it and it just goes like, no, we're not gonna do it. StreamYards, gotta love it.
That's why I put my comment in.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was weird.
Jordan is in the house. Yvette's in the house.
Captain MKG.
And he says he's driving, or he just got done driving, so he's going to get some sleep. Well, go get some sleep then, man. I know I fell asleep while Mrs. Vile was trying to dye her hair last night, and I was trying to help her out, but I fell asleep. But while she was dyeing her hair, I was watching the movie Slaughterhouse. Have any of you guys heard this movie before?
I looked at that sloth. Oh my god. No. Let me actually watch that. The murderous sloth.
Elihu, this movie was freaking awesome.
It's a sloth that's trying to kill you. You cannot outrun a sloth.
Dude, I don't know how to explain to you how good this movie is. You have to watch it. Okay. There's no explanation as to why this sloth is murderous, how it can do the things it does. It just does. And
Slaughterhouse.
It is definitely in that so bad it's good territory. And I love how, yes, the puppet is not the best for the sloth. They definitely take their shortcuts with it, but that just adds to the charm of this movie. And I love how the actors or actresses in this movie play it off as it's 100% legit.
It's all girl cast too, it looks like.
No, there's a couple of guys in there.
You mean played dumb?
I'm just looking at the poster. It looks like it's all girl cast.
Is that what you're saying?
Well, it takes place at a sorority house, so it would make sense that a majority of the characters are female.
Right.
And what is this called again?
Slaughterhouse.
That's what I thought you said.
Yeah.
Here, I'm going to type it in. So, this is how it's spelled. It's literally Sloth-er-house, a play off of Slaughterhouse, which if you know that original movie, was a play off of Sorority House.
So it's a derivative of a derivative.
Yes, but I thoroughly enjoyed this movie from start to finish.
I kind of like that we're getting back to people just being able to enjoy movies that don't have as high a production value as a blockbuster would. You know, it's like when I grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s, you could enjoy a movie even if it didn't have the best special effects. And
actually, this movie's got a pretty good audience rating.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even bother. When I was looking for a movie to watch and I just saw the title, I'm like, I have to click this just for the title.
Do not pay attention to Rotten Tomatoes because it's been exposed that people have been paid to actually post reviews on there.
Yeah.
So I don't bother
Oh,
with Rotten
no.
Tomatoes.
Who said I was talking about Rotten Tomatoes? I just said I noticed some of the things were saying it was getting good reviews. I mean,
When somebody says audience reviews, that means basically Rotten Tomatoes. Like, don't go for Rotten Tomatoes, please.
I don't know. Okay, whatever. I just said it
Hey,
looks
stop
like it's
telling
getting good
people what to
reviews.
do, Elihu. Fuck
Yeah.
you.
And you know what? Rotten Tomatoes is still an aggregate score, so therefore, even if there are even 10 to 20% are paid reviews, it's still going to be fairly accurate, despite the fact that some people are being paid to do stuff.
Okay, seriously, how many people got paid, do you think, to review that movie?
Based on their budget, I don't think there was a lot.
Exactly. Let's kind of put that in perspective here.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Yvette's recommending Mandela Effect. That's definitely a movie I would not watch normally because I think the people who think the Mandela Effect is real are crazy.
If you have Prime, there is a movie that on Prime that just by the virtue of the title I had to watch, and it's called Zillafoot. It's about this
Zillafoot?
Bigfoot
That's so
Godzilla
you.
hybrid monster. Yeah.
That is so
All right,
fucking
I
you. That
need
like you
someone
can't.
to-
The matter of fact, like you literally found Darren's perfect title. Actually, came past Darren's eyes. That's a match made in heaven. You can't get like if Darren was a movie. That's it, right there. Perfect.
Somebody, okay, I
All
need
right.
someone to explain to me this one because
Bigfoot
I actually
Godzilla.
do not know.
That is hilarious.
What is the Mandela effect? I'm actually not familiar. I've heard the term, but I've never.
I can
looked up what it
explain
means.
it, but I know somebody else wants to. So
Well, go ahead, Darren, because as I said,
Mandela effect
I
first of all gets its name from a phenomenon in which many people believed that Nelson Mandela was still in prison in South Africa when he had, that he had died actually in prison in South Africa when he actually had been released many years ago, and it has two definitions. The first one is this idea of how we as human beings and our memory works. Where we can get confused and remember things differently than when they actually, how they actually went. The other idea behind the Mandela effect is that our memories are actually accurate and somehow history has been altered around them. So, like, if you remember yesterday's Enterprise, the Star Trek episode, Guinan remembered the original timeline, as soon as the Enterprise C went through the rift and changed recent history. That's the Mandela effect to some people.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for
yeah,
giving me an
yeah.
actual representation of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say this, Darren. Using that Star Trek episode was a great way of describing it for us Trekkies.
Yeah,
That was a very good example.
Thank you.
yeah. Because once he said that and mentioned that, it was like, okay, now, yeah, I understand so much better.
Yeah, it can be said in modern terms that what Guinan was experiencing was a variation of the Mandela effect. I personally don't believe that history is changing. I think that it's just the way the human brain commonly stores memories, especially trivial ones. You'll notice that a lot of the examples of the Mandela effect are very trivial things, like what did Darth Vader say, in Empire Strikes Back, or how do you spell the Berenstain Bears, things like that. It's not anything ever really huge or major, so.
Well,
Yeah.
Darren, have you ever heard of the trope of a Mondegreen?
Yes. Mondegreen is a misheard song lyric. It gets
I
its,
think
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think that the Mandela effect is an extension of a Mondegreen.
It's probably
are we
very
talking
similar.
about so we can relate the Mandela effect to maybe what is it, the most misquoted things in like, for example, I think one of you mentioned it just a minute ago about what did Darth Vader say? I mean, we
Like
heard
beam
the
me up,
quote,
Scotty.
yeah, like beam me up, Scotty, even though it was never uttered in TOS.
Like we are the champions of the world. Of the world is never at the end of the song. Yeah.
I think
But,
we lost everybody there.
Sorry, I was coughing.
there's been a couple where, because I happen to have been paying attention to some things, I know that they're definitely people are misremembering things, like the peanut butter. A lot of people thought it was called Jiffy. Because they're cross referencing their brains are cross referencing Jiffy Lube, Jiffy Pop, and then this peanut butter called Jif. But the slogan when I was a kid was "Choosy mothers choose Jif" because Jif peanut butter had less sugar in it than Peter Pan and Skippy, right? So there's an example there. Where,
Yeah, you see for me, it was the commercial. Eat some peanut butter anytime you can, but only if it's Peter Pan. I remember that one. Sorry.
I don't remember that one, but I do remember the Jiffy one. But what other movies do you guys find so bad they're good? Because that's primarily what I wanted to talk about. Because I want a list of movies that I can now watch.
There is oh God. It's funny you mentioned that because I was just thinking about oh God, I gotta find this.
Well, it depends. Do you have a tolerance for black and white movies?
I love black.
Of course, the movies are movies.
Okay, all right. Now, either you can watch the original version or the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version, but The Brain That Wouldn't Die is pretty good. Plus, any Ed Wood movie that they do in particular, if you're wanting, those are the original like bad movies that people still love to watch because they were bad. But yeah.
Well,
I'm curious. Speaking of bad,
when I was a kid and I was on my Mystery 3000, or you know what I mean, MST3K kick,
Yeah.
I probably watched it, but I haven't probably seen it in 30 years.
Right.
So
yeah,
I'm putting it on the list of movies because I'm trying to get a list of movies and TV shows that I want to watch, but I'm going to add these into this so bad it's good territory.
Yeah, I played The Brain That Wouldn't Die MST3K version on USS Trepang to a bunch of battle-hardened submariners, and they were pissing themselves. At first, they're looking at it like, what is this? Because it's black and white movie, real old movie, obviously bad. But, it was so ripe with, opportunities for commentary, let's just say. And it's yeah. Even the captain came down and watched it with us. It was weird.
I'm curious. What was the last movie you guys watched that wasn't actually a blockbuster or a new release? What's the last movie you guys watched that's like a classic or something?
A classic?
Yeah, that's not a new release or a big blockbuster. Like, what's the last movie you saw?
It wasn't like a new release, like an old film. I mean,
yeah,
you're way too broad. If it's just that wasn't a blockbuster, then
something before 2000. Something before 2000.
Well, I'm kind of confused because I didn't really watch it, but when I was working this week, because I had 60 hours to work this week. Actually, it ended up being cut down to 55 hours, but either way, I was re-listening to because I couldn't watch. I'm working, but all the Terminator movies, I listened to, all of them. So would that count as a classic movie? Even if it was from Terminator all the way to Genesis.
That counts as a blockbuster.
Well, Terminator wasn't necessarily a blockbuster when it originally came out.
It was. Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Argue it wasn't.
It made money, but I wouldn't call it a blockbuster.
Okay,
yeah, I agree with Darren.
Okay, let's take this out. Screw the blockbuster thing because there were a lot of 80s movies we could call blockbusters.
Right.
By the 80s definition of a blockbuster. Because we got to remember, guys, international ticket sales and stuff, wouldn't that come around the 2000 timeframes? That shit became a big deal. The overseas market.
A blockbuster is a work of entertainment, typically a feature film, that is highly popular and financially successful. See, there's no actual metric that you could say, it has to gross so much of a percent of what it was, what was used to make it before it becomes one. I think it's a very generic term, which is fine. I mean, that means that anybody can call any successful movie a blockbuster. But You know?
Well, yeah, exactly. For example, you could call at the beginning of the year, you could say Megan was a blockbuster in some ways based on the amount of money they spent, the reviews it got, and the money it made.
Well, I think one of the great examples from my lifetime of a movie that didn't do so hot in theaters, but then became a blockbuster franchise after it went to home video was Lethal Weapon.
Yes.
Lethal Weapon was marginalized when it came out in the theaters. Critics didn't like it, but then it went to home video and it became like this huge seller and renter. And suddenly now they're talking about a Lethal Weapon 2. And you know, that was an example of that kind of thing happening. But
Darren, I'm too old for this shit.
You're getting too old for this shit.
I'm getting too old for this shit.
Oh, yeah, reference to the movie. Gotcha.
Well, in that case, NB, you've just been revoked.
I will say that last night,
What I do?
I was making the joke. I was making the joke from the movie. Come on. You've just been revoked. Get it?
Yeah. Oh, I get it. Yeah. That was the second one, wasn't it? With the
has
South
just
Africans.
Been revoked.
Yeah.
You're right. Diplomatic immunity has just been revoked. Okay, Mike, I got you now.
I will say that a couple of weeks ago, some friends of mine and I watched the 1976 Jessica Lange King Kong film with Jeff Bridges. And the guys I was with every time Jeff Bridges was on the screen, they could not stop quoting The Big Lebowski because that, you know, it's Jeff Bridges wearing very long hair and a beard, and he's obviously years younger, but it just became this laughing thing where, like, you know, where you know. And we came up with this theory that The Big Lebowski is actually a sequel to that King Kong movie. Where
shut the fuck up, Donnie! Shut the fuck up, Donnie!
Yeah. Well, that's what's funny because the female character, you know, the character that Jessica Lange plays in that movie is called Dwan, and so every time she opens her mouth, shut the fuck up, Dwani. You know, we were having a crass but fun time. You know.
Oh, playing on telling Steve Busey to shut the fuck up all the time.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Yeah.
Maybe that was a Mandela effect, and his name has actually been Steve Busey this entire time, and it's Gary Buscemi.
Oh, is it?
Did I say Steve Busey?
Yes, you did. You're confusing 80s and 90s talk.
Why did I say David? Why did I say Steve? You know what? Fucking A. You know what? A. Fuck it. I fucked up. I do
that all the time. You know.
I can't remember
I'm sure it was just
name. Believe it or not, I don't give that two shits about actors and their lives. I never understood the National Enquirer and all that fun stuff. Made no sense. Oh.
Well, that was for housewives. Gossipy
Indeed.
housewives.
One of my jobs. Go ahead, Darren.
I was going to say the National Enquirer.
No, I was saying, go ahead.
The news. They were all. A tabloid was a size of newspaper that you typically found. You know, it was an impulse item that they would put right at the cashier's. You know, while you're waiting in line, you happen to see a headline and you grab it. That was the idea behind the National Enquirer.
Trust me, I'm very well aware of impulse buy and how that works.
Yeah,
that's why they put all that stuff right there.
Right. So, yeah it's.
Did you guys know there's a science to that?
Oh, I'm sure there is. There's a psychology to it.
There is. They actually hire people to come in, review stores, and and tell people how to place things. And they do this regularly to update for newer markets, newer people, and stuff.
And that is part of my day job.
That's your J job.
That's part of my day.
What's a J job?
Okay, guys, hold on a second, guys. I need real quick, just clarification here. I'm recovering. I had a severe panic attack on Thursday, and unfortunately, I'm still partially recovering from it. So I apologize if my speech is a little off.
Are you chemically enhanced?
No, actually, I wish I was.
Stay that way.
No, trust me, I wish I was at the moment.
But a lot of people, they don't know that there was a difference between the National Enquirer and the Daily News and the Midnight, whatever it was. Like, it's like the Enquirer was actually, if you want to believe it or not, the most credible of those of the tabloids. But that that's of course like saying that Moe was the smartest of the Three Stooges. But
Shemp, come on.
Yeah, well, Shemp, sure. But anyway, the National Enquirer did not report on UFOs and Bigfoot and stuff like that. A lot of people think they did. They didn't. It was those other black and white ones
that was Weekly World News, wasn't it?
I think so. Yeah. They had the Bat Boy character.
One of the companies that contracts out to my company, the company that I work for, is National Enquirer, who also owns the Globe and the Examiner. And despite the fact that I've been having to pack out those magazines, every week for almost a year now, I have never had the urge to crack one open to actually read any of the articles based on the headlines. But it is interesting to see which headlines are on which of those magazines, because the Enquirer is obviously their most popular one.
Right.
So they tend to stick with celebrity gossip and politics.
Right.
Whereas the Globe tends to be more of world events and politics, whereas the Examiner is the one that has the UFOs usually.
Yeah.
And politics.
A lot of people forget that it was the National Enquirer that broke the John Edwards love child story.
Oh, shit!
They were the ones that cornered him in a either a hotel or a hospital. I can't remember what it was. I think he was going to see, what's her name, the woman that he impregnated, because she just had delivered a baby, and he was there and hiding in like a broom closet, and on his cell phone trying to get security to escort them out so he could leave the building without being seen, and that was what precipitated the whole thing.
Who cares?
I mean,
somebody's cheating on the wife. Who cares about this asshole? I don't care about that.
Well, the thing is, Lihu, that he was a vice presidential candidate at one point. So he's to say that you can't say this isn't a significant story, but it did effectively ruin John Edwards' hopes for anything afterward. He hasn't done diddly since, except get in trouble for having.
Cheating on your wife does not ruin your presidential aspirations.
Well, not anymore, but it did. Not anymore, but it did back then. It did back then. Yeah.
Well,
it's like Gary Hart got ruined. Gary Hart got ruined because of a photograph that was taken between him and his mistress. So I mean, and all they were on the beach together. It was
I hate to tell you this, but we do, when it comes to stuff like this, public opinion matters, optics matter, perception matters. These are just realities.
Let's go back to the reason I had the idea I had on the stream. I'm
gonna mention
every time we start talking about a movie, we go into a tangent, which is fine. But I'm gonna keep bringing us back because I want a list of movies to watch.
Okay, I got a bad one for you.
What about April Fool's Day?
Well, I've got a bad one for you, Mike.
Hold on. Well, since LDG's been mostly quiet, I'm going to let him talk real quick. Which April Fool's Day are you talking about? Because there's more than one.
The 1980 something one with the actor who played Biff from Back to the Future. The cover has a lady with a the cover has a lady with a knife behind her back, and her hair is a bonnet of a noose. Is braided up in a noose.
That was the 2008 one.
That's a 2008 one? No way. No, you're confused. I'm looking it up right now.
I remember that one, and it was the 2008
There's no
one.
way that my VHS is a 2000 anything series. because I have it on VHS. There's no way it's post 2000.
They make VHSs to this day.
Then the remake one reused the same type of image, probably to relate it to the original one because it was a remake.
Yeah, 1986 is the lady in a dress with a knife behind her back, giving a toast, and she has a noose as a hairnet. That's the 1986 version.
All right, I'm putting it down, but I'm pretty sure I've seen both of them, but I couldn't tell you. They were so.
It's a good movie. It's a better than expected movie.
Well, we're talking about.
I remember I was impressed.
Bad, it's good. That's the point.
Well, I mean, no, it was bad. That's what I'm saying. It was so bad. It was bad. It was the movie's horrible acting, but it came out good. I think some Jason actors had better.
Speaking of so bad it's good, Red Letter Media had just released a video not too long ago about where they're starting to review the Friday the 13th franchise, and they reviewed the first 5 films, in one hour long video, and that they say that that they understand the appeal. Those are terrible films in terms of the plot and and a lot of times the acting and the directing, but they made money because people went to see tits and gore and all these things. And,
we didn't go there for the acting. We went there to watch teenagers fuck, smoke pot, drink, and get slaughtered.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Gorilla's doing this basically right now. He's doing cringe stock where he's showing like really bad B movies that are good. I can't remember what the last one we watched was, but I suggested.
When he posted this, I didn't know that's what he was talking about.
Yeah, he's doing a show called Cringe Stock where they watch really bad shit, but it's so bad it's good. It's exactly the kind of category you're talking about.
So I got
the last one he made us watch was very interesting. I just can't remember the name. If Gorilla, if you remember the name, or anybody who watched, let us know. That was a cringefully bad movie, but it was interestingly good.
There are
Zombie Hooker.
No,
Zombie Hooker, I think it was called.
Zombie Hooker. Are you talking about Frankenhooker?
Yeah,
you're talking about Frankenhooker. You're talking about Frankenhooker.
Is it the guy goes and gets a whole bunch of strippers?
Yes, Frankenhooker.
You're talking about Frankenhooker.
Oh, I thought they said it was Zombie Hooker. Okay.
No, the zombie one with Robert Englund was worse than that one. Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh.
But zombie, stripper, dude.
Yeah, so I liked it. I mean, I was laughing my ass off during some of those scenes.
Frankenhooker is basically a remake of The Brain That Wouldn't Die. But no, there are some very well-known bad movies that I will, that people rave about that I will not see because people talk about it too much. Like The Room, I will not see that movie.
Okay, Darren, I will say I did see The Room, and I would put it in that so bad it's good category, but I saw it long before it became popular on the internet.
Never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say this about Frankenhooker. I remember this movie very distinctly because I was at Blockbuster going down the normal lines of movies, and we were in the horror section with my friends, and this movie said Frankenhooker, and, normally they had the VHS tape right there in front, at least the cover. And you could press the button on it, and it said "Want a date?" And I was like, "Okay, fuck it, we got to figure out what the hell this is." And we watched the movie, and oh my god, we were laughing our asses off at how bad it was.
I may have already seen Frankenhooker. I'm not entirely sure. The premise sounds like something I've seen before. But when
I'm going to give you the plot. I'm going to give you the plot. Guy makes an automatic lawnmower. Runs over his girlfriend, starts
I've
put her back together.
Once you said the automatic lawnmower, I've seen it.
Okay.
But for a second there, I thought you were talking about one that I did recently click on based on the title, which was called Zombie Strippers. And that's one of those movies that's in the so bad it's still fucking bad, don't fucking watch this movie category, because
that's the Robert Englund one, right?
No, this is not even that one. I'm sorry, there is one that has Robert Englund that was in there, but this particular one was basically a one made last year, and it makes 90s softcore porn look bad because it was just an excuse to have women stripped down to their bra and panties. There wasn't even boob shots, and then they would immediately switch to another scene where a random person gets killed by a zombie, and it makes no fucking sense. It was horrible. Don't watch it.
Look, if you need softcore porn directors, I'm sure there are plenty of people from Cinemax who can be available.
Yeah, plenty of people on this panel that'll be available.
As watchers or as directors?
Either. I'll be the director and the actor at the same time.
I could confidently make even a softcore porn film as a director. I don't know the directing, how to direct stuff.
Yeah, okay. 4 other people here.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, you do have to have some basic understanding of directing in order to even direct something like a porno.
Like the kind of education you get from a media production degree.
What you have a media production degree?
There are schools for specifically for directing, and things like that. So yeah.
Well, they're they're extra schools. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about like a film degree.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I identify it.
Something tells me that.
See this, Mike? Have you ever seen the movie Split Second?
I don't know.
It was too quick.
Jesus Christ! You got to work on your puns.
Are you sure that's not? Are you sure that's not the softcore porn that LDG apparently
exactly
directed and starred in because of how long he lasts in bed?
I don't know. Man. Did he have Rutger Hauer in there in the bed with him?
Yeah,
it's possible.
$1 million is $1 million.
Anyway, the movie Split Second stars Rutger Hauer. It's from 1992. It's one of those dystopian futures in 2008, global warming and stuff. The whole thing is it deals with some kind of monster, and the monster is really terribly done. The acting by most people is really bad, but I don't know. There's some between the 3 principal characters that just cracks me the fuck up every time I watch it, especially with Rutger Hauer's character as Harley and his partner, Dick Durbin.
Dick Durbin, the senator.
It was so fucking funny. I don't know. The interactions just between them kept making me laugh sometimes. That I forgot that this was supposed to be a sci-fi horror movie. And like I said, the monster is very poorly done. It's piss poor. The lighting's terrible. It's all done at night. But I don't know. Something about the interaction between the 3 characters just cracked me the fuck up that I just I've watched that movie like 3-4 times. And every time I'm just like, yep, it sucks. I still love it. God damn it.
There are some bad movies that universally, like for example, Flash Gordon, right? Yes. That's a bad movie. And yet most people still like it. I guess. I mean, it's one of those weird films that has universal appeal in some regards.
But I don't think I could class. I don't think I could class Flash Gordon as a bad movie to begin with by the soundtrack alone.
Well, some people don't like that kind of music. I mean, it's like you look at it's trying to be a bad movie. It's got deliberately bad effects. It's got deliberately bad, performances over the top. There was a certain thing it was going for, and it succeeded. And I think that's where. See, I think a lot of us, when we think about a bad movie that's so bad it's good, we think about a movie that's actually trying to be good and failing miserably, yet we like it. And I think that Flash Gordon was one of those movies that was trying to be bad. So it isn't quite the same as something like The Room. It's a little bit different.
Totally agree, Yvette.
I've never seen The Room because I have no point to see it because I've already pretty much seen every scene in it from everybody else telling me about it.
Yeah, The Room was, oh God, The Room is in a category all on its own because the guy was insane. The guy that made it, God, I can't remember his name now.
Classic example of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Tommy Wiseau is his name.
Thank you, Tommy Wiseau. Sorry.
Yeah, and he thought he was a lot better at it than he really was, and he seemed to have no self-awareness.
All right, I'm gonna throw one out there that is so bad it's good, and this is probably gonna piss maybe a few people off. But let's be honest, the Boondock Saints.
Wasn't that a TV show?
No, I would agree with you there, and I did like it.
Val Kilmer, right?
No, not the Boondocks. The Boondock Saints. I'm not talking about Riley and Huey.
You're talking about Val Kilmer.
No relation.
Val Kilmer, right?
But William Dafoe made that movie for me. I thought it was just stupid action flick until William Dafoe appeared. Sorry, Willem Dafoe.
Not William.
Well, you can understand the mispronunciation, or maybe it's another Mandela effect.
You committed a crime here.
But he made that movie for me. Once his character became established, and he's awesome in that movie.
No, I'm not saying I don't love the movie. I do love the movie, but we have to be honest. It's not a good movie.
I love the first Cube, Yvette. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, the Cube. Oh,
yes.
Shit. Yes.
That was great.
Oh, yes.
But is it a bad movie that's so bad it's good?
Yes.
Yes.
No, okay. I don't think. Well, personally, I think Cube was actually just good. It had a good storyline. It had a good plot. The effects weren't necessarily all that great, but that was because they were limited highly by the budget. So I would say that because of that aspect, you could argue that it's so bad it's good. But
I don't think that's a good qualifier to say just because of the budget, the effects are. We've seen movies with lower budgets that we say we give forgiveness to them because the end of the performance was good. I'm going to be honest here. I don't know. The Cube, the second one was bad, but I really don't know if I could say the first one was bad.
The first one was good because you have to be a genius to escape, and the idiot won. The idiot got free. That was so great about it.
Well, the second one I would definitely say is just bad.
Hypercube is terrible.
Cube Zero, I would say, is much better. It's a return to form. Even though, basically, it's a prequel. And I'm not going to give away the twist ending because they threw in a twist ending for it. But it goes into more of the background of the cube, like why it was built and everything. And then there's one that I haven't seen yet, which is a Japanese remake of the Cube.
Why do I think they would do it better?
As I said, I haven't seen it yet.
Well, Elihu, I've got one quick thing to say. For All Mankind, probably the best visuals I've ever seen of space travel.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I want to say this. Moore did the silence thing in Battlestar Galactica, which I thought was very brilliant. But, I mean, it's just a whole nother level with all that silence. I mean, that's literally fucking scary as shit.
You like that they don't have a track on the background, right? It's just quietness.
Yes.
That is that's what makes a great science fiction genre. You have nothing but quietness in the background. No music. No track.
It puts me on edge. Dude, when I was watching, I'm on the last episode of season 3. So, but when I was watching the whole thing with the Russians and the Americans and the transfer, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dude, my fucking heart rate was going through the roof with that tension because of all the quiet.
And by the way,
brilliant. It's fucking brilliant.
The liftoff on Mars technically can happen if things correctly added up. That's what I want to say about For All Mankind. It's been actually tested, and yeah, a human can survive that.
I'm just saying it's a fucking amazing it's a fucking amazing series. Although I have my issues with Karen because what she did in season 2.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Has anybody seen that Boys prequel that just came out?
Gen Z?
Gen V.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, there's apparently a Boys prequel?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just started. It's apparently three episodes are online on Amazon right now. Apparently it's just as gory and nasty and
Well, did anybody besides me read the comic The Boys?
Yes, I did.
Oh,
yes,
you did?
I read the comic.
But the comic is way different than the show. I actually think the show is better.
I think, it's interesting how the comic went. I actually thought the show has, in a lot of ways, in some aspects, been a bit tamer.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one reason why I think I like the show better is because it has a little bit more universal appeal, even though it's still raunchy, gross shit, But when you read the comic, I mean, there was a guy I hung out with at the comic shop years ago who was really into The Boys, and I would thumb through his, the latest issue of The Boys, and I felt like I needed a shower afterwards. There was so much in there that was so much worse than the show, but it was worse in a bad way. It wasn't worse in a fun way. There was, at least in the show, there's a tiny bit of over the top fun in there, and I think that's the magic that Kripke adds to the show. But for example, I think Soldier Boy is a way better character in the show than he is in the comic.
I would agree.
I would say the comic book basically portrays every single person in that frickin' comic book as a bad guy.
Yeah.
Whereas in the show, they kind of humanize everybody, even frickin' Homelander to an extent.
To an extent, yeah.
I would agree. I would 100% agree with that because that was one of the problems I had with the comic. Was it always I don't care if anybody lives or dies at this point. When we got to the end of the comic, I was just like, okay, this makes total sense, but I don't think that's what they're going for in this because I don't think that's Butcher's plan in the end.
In this one, obviously, we're supposed to root for Huey and probably Starlight, though they're the least bad characters.
Yes.
We have, but in the comic, it was just. No, but I mean, the thing is, Garth Ennis hates the concept of the superhero. He's a very interesting guy. He makes money, writing superhero comics, but hates it. He would rather write a hit superhero comic than use the money to write some comic that he really wants to write, like a historical biopic on Dunkirk or something. And then he kind of always has to come back to superheroes, and each time he does, I mean. The Boys is basically the Watchmen in terms of what he's attempting to do. He's trying to destroy the concept of superheroes in general with the show.
There are no superheroes. There are no superheroes. Hang on, there are no superheroes in the show The Boys. There is nobody saving anybody. All they are is superpowered people who are actors and public.
Yeah, there's
no superheroes.
You don't have to tell us that, Elihu. We understand that, but they're still called superheroes within the narrative, and that's one of the reasons why what he's doing. He presents us characters that on the surface look and resemble superheroes, but then in their behavior they're not. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
But they're still called superheroes because in that world, that's what they are.
And remember, the public doesn't really know all this. This isn't the public we know where, everything. Right. Well, I mean, they still have publicists and stuff. And, oh, my God. Let's talk about, God, what's his name? Now I'm drawing a blank. Well,
I just want to give an example of a major difference. For example, there's an episode. It was a really good episode of the show last season called Herogasm, in which the highlight, was this orgy that the Supes all have. Well, in the comic, what it actually is because the public believes what Vought tells them. So they every year the superheroes all leave Earth supposedly to go fight some space menace. But what they actually do is they go to the Florida Keys and have a great big, orgy. That's, it's their vacation basically. And so that entire space mission thing was omitted for the show because that's a little bit too much to grasp for a TV show. I think in the comic it's fine because you have unlimited budget, the medium is different, But I was satisfied with the episode Herogasm because it had just enough of that orgy stuff in there to make it really cringeworthy and so that's an example of the differences.
I honestly wondered if they were going to do that from the comic. I really wondered if they were going to go there.
Yeah, the show doesn't go into the massive
depravity.
Hoax, the massive hoax that Vought has created around their superhero characters. I mean, they actually convinced the people living in the comic book universe that their superheroes go on space adventures when they don't, and it's sort of a parody of comic book events like the Secret Wars and Crisis on Infinite Earths and things like that, where the superheroes all leave Earth and come back to Earth, and they come back changed. It's a popular gimmick within comics, or was back when we had good corporate comics. It's again, it's also a statement on corporate America as well. Kripke and but more specifically, Warren Ellis doesn't like them. He doesn't like organized religion, so organized religion is also attacked. Things like that. But yeah, the show is way more entertaining than the comic because there's a little bit less of a mean-spiritedness. You've got a couple of characters that are flawed but still good, in Huey and Starlight, and so I think that's where it shines.
Yeah, Starlight in that show, it seems to be more of the Superman-esque character, where it comes to might be put into a situation where she might have to do something bad, but she's doing it in the best way possible, and I like that. I mean, because Superman has always been that paragon, but occasionally he has to delve into those darker aspects of being a superhero. And those are some of the best stories, in my opinion.
I don't think people remember sometimes Superman has crossed the line.
Yes.
If you actually go back to, I believe it was, what was it? Superman 26. Anyway, I remember this cover very specifically, where Superman literally is opening up a box.
Kryptonite. Yeah, he's killing the Phantom Zone criminals.
He's killing the Phantom Zone people. Yeah. And then there was the whole storyline that came after that because he played judge, jury, and executioner. And then the storylines was he was racked with guilt after that.
There was I don't remember him being racked with guilt after that. See, that was John Byrne's last issue of Superman when he had a 2-year run on both Action Comics, and he ended it with that. And the justification was that took place on an alternate Earth where the Phantom Zone criminals had killed every single or most human beings. There's only like 2 or 3 people left on Earth, and so he, as the last surviving representative of law and order, he took it upon himself to kill them with that universe's version of kryptonite, which didn't affect him, but it affected the Phantom Zone criminals, and he killed them. He killed General Zod, he killed Quell, and he killed Zora, and then left that universe for hours, and I found it perfectly justifiable given the circumstances and all the variables, but we're still left with a Superman who doesn't want to kill, but in that situation, he felt that was the best way. Because I mean, obviously, the Phantom Zone criminals, having destroyed Earth, if they figure out a way to leave Earth, then they're just going to move on and do the same thing. But if they stayed on Earth, they eventually would, it would almost seem like humane to kill them too. It was a very weird scenario. I felt that in Man of Steel, when Superman breaks Zod's neck, spoilers, sorry, that
No!
that was the same. That was the same kind of situation. He was basically putting down a rabid dog at that point. Zod had already expressed that, look, I have no purpose to exist now because, we could have made, resurrected Krypton. And we're still left with a Superman who doesn't want to kill. But.
See,
I would say that
because
hold on. I just wanted to say that the Man of Steel movie was bad for other reasons. I know a lot of people focused on him killing Zod, but I didn't have that wasn't my issue with it. It was almost everything else having to do with that movie that made it bad, in my opinion.
You mean up to the point before Zod arrived?
I'm gonna agree with Mike on this one. There were a lot of other issues I had with that movie. One. Mainly being Kevin Costner doing Jonathan Kent the way he did.
Oh yeah,
that was not John Kent. That was not Jonathan Kent.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
The strangest thing was all the complaints I had, and all the complaints we're talking about. Him killing Zod was not even on my radar of caring, because I was like, I remember because I immediately went back to that issue of the comic. And it was like, when he's left with no choice, he's going to make that decision. It's not that he wants to do it, but nobody else can do it but him.
And he's taking that burden upon himself.
Exactly.
And the emotional damage it's going to do to him because of the way he was supposedly raised in the real world, or in the comic books, not in the way Kevin Costner did it, because Kevin Costner was like, no, let people fucking die.
Well, Kevin Costner's Pa Kent gave the worst possible advice that parents can give in some cases.
Yeah.
Your son is asking you for advice, and you say, "I'm sorry, I'm not qualified to give you advice." Basically, is what he's saying. Do what you think. Well, there have been studies now that have been come out of kids, that what that does to kids and the kind of anxiety that can create in them, because they don't have structure. They don't have, when your parent, the person you're supposed to guide you through life, blows you off in that way.
Yeah.
So
when he goes, should I have just let them die? And he said maybe. Dude, maybe. That took me out of the whole thing for him.
Oh yeah.
That was everything, because I'm like, this is the exact opposite. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna go all the way back to what was said back in Christopher Reeve's movie. You are here for a reason. Now, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but he goes, I know it wasn't to play football, but he was like, control your powers, but don't use them for personal gain. This was literally, don't expose your secret.
Yeah.
Let people die to keep your secret. I mean, that was the worst fucking advice of a Jonathan Kent ever.
Right. And, that carried through into the sequel. In Batman v Superman, there's this otherwise wonderful scene where Clark Kent's in the Himalayas. He gets away from society by going to the Himalayas, and he sees, like, the ghost of his father, like, working on this little stone, monument that's up there. And the ghost of his father tells him the story about how there was a flood, and he and his Clark's grandfather worked all night and saved the farm, but they had stopped the water. But what happened was the water then moved downstream, and washed out the Lang farm. So the message is that and this is the message. You can't help one person without simultaneously hurting another. It's essentially what they call the zero-sum game, and that's also shitty, advice as well. But it's perfectly in keeping with that version of Pa Kent. And then you top it all off with Diane Lane's Ma Kent just, I don't care what you do, Clark. Be their savior. Be their demon, whatever. It's like, what? They're trying to turn him into an Xer.
Yeah, how did they fail so hard when, the Superman animated show from the 90s did it so much better?
Oh, that was such a that is, whenever somebody asks me what like the truest version of Superman is, I point them to that cartoon, the Paul Dini, Bruce Timm cartoon of the 90s.
Well, not only that Superman wasn't just a flying brick, like, they portray him in the DCAU. I'm sorry, the DCEU. The DCAU, at least, also portrayed him as a freaking smart guy and would sometimes not even use his powers. He would use his brains to outsmart his opponents.
Right.
And that was
he was an investigative journalist.
Yeah. He was.
That used to mean something back in the day.
Right.
But, I want to say something to Darren here. One thing that, remember how the parallels are so different from Superman and Man of Steel when it comes to Kent's death. When he's talking to his dad and he's just trying to raise him, he's a young kid, and his dad dies of a heart attack, and he's like, all my power, and I can't save him. And it's like,
right.
This was something he couldn't prevent. Right. And I think that gave him a significant purpose. Whereas in this point, it was fucking Kent saying, don't save me. Don't expose yourself. I'm sorry. Those were two scenes that just fucking killed the movie for me.
Yeah. That was not, in the long run, that was a mistake. And I think, and I feel bad because I enjoy Kevin Costner in other movies, but that one was real. I mean, when I heard that Kevin Costner was going to play Jonathan Kent and what's his face, Russell Crowe was going to play Zod. I didn't really, or not Zod, but Jor-El.
Jor-El.
I thought, well, that's wonderful because Jonathan, that Kevin Costner is going to make Russell Crowe look like a jerk. I didn't care for Russell Crowe at the time, and it was the exact opposite. The good advice was given to him by Jor-El.
Yeah.
And the shitty advice was given to him by his Earth dad. So yeah, it's
Mrs. Vile's in the chat, so everyone has to say hi to Mrs. Vile.
Hola, Mrs. Cardenas.
Stand up when his wife enters the room, please.
Yep. She's in the house. I'm down in TJ right now because we're gonna, after the live stream, we're going to a friend of hers' birthday.
TJ.
Yep.
Tijuana.
Huh. Oh. So, but yeah, I think the creators of Man of Steel, I can't remember who wrote it offhand.
Christopher Nolan was the producer and had a lot of creative control, but it was Zack Snyder who directed it.
I think they wanted to portray Jor-El as the good parent and, Clark's real dad and, not Jonathan Kent.
Right. And that is the opposite of the 78 movie. And I can understand why they wanted to do that twist, but in execution, it's just,
Well, it's very poor when you come up with, those of us who grew up in Jonathan Kent was always, the strong father figure, the whole point of him being a Kansas farm boy and everything, growing up in a humble, even with all these powers. And, I just didn't like that portrayal. I hated it so much.
Yeah. Things I did like about the movie, though. I thought Henry Cavill, despite the material that they gave him in the deconstructed world around the character, I thought he was great. And talk about, we got a Superman who looked buff. I mean, it was.
I will argue with you with that. I think he was a good Superman. I don't think he was that good of a Clark Kent.
No. There was literally, that's another thing. There was literally like no difference. It was like his disguise. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that in that first film that Lois knew who he was as soon as she saw him. And while I did thought it was kind of an interesting twist that everybody in Smallville was protecting his identity.
No, I hated that.
I thought it was an interesting idea, but yeah, it's not the classic idea. The idea being that he's keeping a secret identity. I think that the secret identity part they kind of abandoned. I mean, it was just going to be one of those things where he's going to hide in plain sight, and not make any effort to really hide it, other than wearing, his
I'm going to give the
glasses.
best Jonathan Kent. I'm going to say to go to the guy from Dukes of Hazzard.
Now, see, I didn't see Smallville, so
Wow.
I had no interest in watching Smallville because I didn't want to see a show entirely about Superman growing up and then never becoming Superman. I mean, the payoff was supposed to be Tom Welling at towards the end actually putting on the suit, and we were never going to get that.
Yeah, my whole issue with Smallville was it went on for way too long. It should have been like 4, maybe 5 seasons, and at the fifth season is when he finally dons the tights. Not 10 seasons where he fights every single villain he's ever fought in his entire pantheon, including Doomsday.
Yeah.
And never wears the tights.
Right. Hey, I'm not saying they didn't go on too long. We could say that about God knows how many shows. The fucking Walking Dead should have ended. I can't even believe they're still making fucking continuations of that shit.
But I will say that Tom Welling did do a really good Clark Kent as far as I'm concerned. And Erica, what's her name? The one who played Lois Lane. I think she did a great job as well.
Well, the Snyder character though, the Pa Kent. I mean, what NB Geek was saying was that his favorite Pa Kent, and I guess in live action, is the Schneider.
Yes,
Schneider played, and I do like the fact that Bo Duke, got a chance to be in another hit show later in life, because I grew up, with that show.
Well, I didn't. It wasn't just him being in. It was also Annette O'Toole, who I had seen in other shows and other movies prior to. So I was
remember, Annette O'Toole originally played Lana Lang in.
Yep, she did.
It was it Star Trek? Superman 3.
Superman 3.
Okay. It was Superman 3. Yeah, because the actress who played her in Lana Lang in the first film was not available. But and the WB was always really good about that. Like even in the shows that weren't very good, some of the casting choices were fun. Like Supergirl, her adoptive parents were Dean Cain and Helen Slater.
Yes, that was so cool. Yes, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a good reference, even though Dean Cain, I think, is one of those actors who went off the deep end a little bit.
You only say that because he doesn't follow your political perspective.
He's fine.
Well, they also had Kevin Sorbo in Supergirl, and he's gone. He went off the deep end of the deep end.
No, he didn't. No, none of them are going off the deep end. You're so full of shit. They haven't gone off the deep end. They just don't agree with they don't agree with the bubble.
No, I'm sorry. Kevin Sorbo, after certain things, I can't.
Okay, are we going to talk politics now?
I'm not even talking politics. I'm talking about the types of movies he's going into. If you're going to say that,
you're judging him on what movies is going in, Hollywood's not going to hire him. Hollywood won't hire Dean Cain.
Well, again, we just said that they were in these major productions, so Hollywood is still giving them roles.
But those were years ago.
Those were years ago, buddy.
Within the last 2 years, they're not getting the kind of work that they used to. But that's fine. But no, the Paul Dini Bruce Timm cartoon is. In that whole series, starting with Batman the animated series, flowing into Superman the animated series, and then their Justice League material. That is some of the best.
Is probably the quintessential DC interpretation, as far as I'm concerned. It's even better than the comic books at times.
At times, yeah, it's the changes that they made. I remember being blown away by some of the changes they made to Superman's origin with respect to Brainiac. I'm like, I was like, oh, they tied it directly into the destruction of Krypton. Well, that's great. That enhances, the character of Brainiac even more. The idea that Brainiac was the AI that was in charge of protecting the Krypton, and this AI went rogue and decided to let Krypton get destroyed. It was withholding data. Jor-El's the guy who figured it all out, but then Brainiac wouldn't agree with him, and so the council, wouldn't believe him, and then later he finds out that that Brainiac lied because Brainiac determined that he was the most important thing that had to be saved above all else. And
that really was a good arc, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that was just, I mean, and the voice actor that got to play the voice of Brainiac, I don't remember his name, but when he's explaining to Jor-El, he's like, if the Council knew of, Krypton's pending destruction, they would have frantically put me at work calculating an evacuation plan, which would be futile at this point. And so he's like, am I not what should be, since I am the repository of all Kryptonian knowledge, should I not be saved above all else? That was his idea. And,
well, you can't argue with his logic.
Well, it is. Yeah, he had machine logic. That is correct.
Yeah.
And that was what was so great about him, was you totally understood his motivation. But even though it was the wrong motivation, it was
you can't. I don't think you can.
It's understandable from a certain point of view.
Humanity. Yeah. That's the thing.
And tying Brainiac into Krypton's destruction also had the effect of enhancing the Brainiac character to the point where he was on par with Lex Luthor. Everybody who talks about, that Superman's greatest enemy of all time is Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor this, right? And he's got a whole bunch of other B-list villains that and Brainiac is one of them. But in that show, Brainiac became an A-lister. He was like arguably his best villain in that cartoon, on par with Luthor. And Luthor, that is also my favorite version of Lex Luthor. Especially when you take the whole arc into account, where he starts out as the billionaire businessman, and then becomes the fugitive mad scientist later in the Justice League. They even went with the presidential angle from the early 2000s too, and they actually, I thought their adaptation of that idea was also really great. But so many, I mean, to this day, and I don't know, maybe NB remembers this. That animated series had a version of the Toyman that was so creepy and chilling.
Yeah, that Toyman is the definitive version as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you look at every other version of Toyman, it's like, yeah, you're silly, but this one was almost had like a Saw sort of bent to it. How Saw sometimes has that puppet. This guy had a mask that was a smiling kid.
Yeah,
and he was like a Batman villain in a Superman cartoon, but his traps and stuff were good enough to give Superman trouble. That's what I think was so awesome.
Just FYI, that screenshot I just showed you guys, since we were talking about this, that's where all my Batman stuff is. That's right above my head. That was all my shit.
Not to mention, when it comes to the DCAU Darkseid, especially voiced by Michael Ironside, he is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
and I love Sorry, let me finish real quick. I love that first introductory episode where he tries to take over, and they killed Turpin, which was shocking by the least in a children's cartoon.
Right.
Coupled with the fact that when Superman finally lets him out, lets go and beats the shit out of Darkseid, his people come to his rescue, because despite the fact that he's evil, he's still their leader and they still love him.
Yeah, exactly. That was
such
the futility of it.
For Superman.
Yeah, Darkseid said that is something you will never understand. I love that line.
Yeah. But it's.
You know what I would have loved to have seen?
There's hold on, NB, before you get it. But you mentioned the death of Turpin. There's something more significant behind the scenes about that. Do you know who Turpin was based on?
Not really, but to me he was like a Captain Stacy role. And sorry, I got a bunch of cars driving by.
Turpin was based on Jack Kirby, and Jack Kirby had died recently, and that death was meant as an homage to Jack Kirby as well.
But But the fact they got away with it on a kids show in the 90s where they couldn't even mention death at times. I mean, hell, we're talking about the same time period where the Spider-Man cartoon, Spider-Man wasn't allowed to throw a punch.
Right.
So, because it was considered too violent, and they actually ended up killing a guy who was a established character.
Yeah.
That was
part of the reason, I think, is because they also established, I think, that I don't know if they established this in the cartoon though or not, that Darkseid's Omega beams don't always disintegrate what they hit. You know, it's but because basically he gets hit with the Omega beams and then he's a pile of smoldering dust, right? So they didn't really show anything too graphic, and they didn't really need to. He just got deleted. You know, it was, and I think that's another reason why it wasn't violent per se. You know, there's
no blood and guts, but yeah.
So for example, you know, when I was doing my comic, a school teacher asked me, you know, he said, you know, she mentioned all the violence in my comic, and I said, well, that's not violence, that's action. She goes, what's the difference? And I said, well, action is throwing a punch. You've got a character in, you know, at the end of his swing, there's motion lines that show the trajectory of the fist, and then you've got a little flash graphic that shows where the contact was, and the person he hit is like flying back, right? Like when the Hulk hits somebody, whatever. That's action. It says violence would be showing the contact and then having like an eyeball pop out, or, you know, that kind of thing. There's a subtle difference. And of course, you know, it's school teachers generally hate comics anyway, or at least they did back in the day. So I couldn't get through to her, and you know, she was being deliberately obtuse and, you know, just trying to be offended for some reason.
Mrs. Vile just brought me out coffee, so I gotta. I'll be right back.
Yeah. All right.
Hey, Darren, what I was gonna say was, since we're talking on the subject, the Question and the Huntress. Man, I wanted more of that.
Yeah, that was something that, you know, what's funny is that after that because that was not from the comics at all. That was something that show did. And there were people clamoring for that kind of a comic or some kind of a romance between the two, and DC wouldn't do it because DC has, you know, and this was true of Marvel too, to an extent. They have their noses out of joint. If some interpretation from another medium of their superheroes gains popularity, they actually will make an effort not to emulate it. And that's a totally different way of doing things that you know, back in the 80s and before, if you had a cartoon version of a character that took off, that everybody, you know, knew from the, you know, from in the pop culture, the comic book company would change the comic book character to emulate it. I mean, that's how Batman got an oval.
Yeah, exactly. I was wondering if you weren't going to bring that up. I was going to bring that up because Batman during the Adam West era changed to fit because of the popular show.
Right. And that's because they were trying to sell comics back then. They were actually, you know, whereas Marvel and DC, somewhere around the late 90s, early aughts, they became pricks. They didn't want to do that anymore. And
all right, dude, would you agree with me that the 90s was pretty much the catalyst to the death of comic books?
I
would say, and here's why I say that. I mean it very.
Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys.
This is right around the time Image came out because of the whole issue with writers wanting creative control over their IP.
Right.
And, you know, so we had Image, we had Malibu, those things were coming out. We were getting other things, but also DC and Marvel, especially Marvel, I remember. That was the age of the crossovers, and that was when all the variants started coming out. And it was kind of like, guys, we can't spend that kind of money. I'm sorry. You want $1.99 for a fucking comic book I read in 20 minutes, but you want me to buy 6 different covers. I don't have that kind of money on 475.
You're talking about the speculator boom.
The speculator, but I don't think the speculator boom hurt the comic book industry nearly as much as what came after that in the aughts and in the teens.
Well, then that would be when I left, because if you call it the speculator boom, that's when I dropped out.
Well, see, I dropped out mostly because I got tired of all the 90s comic books feeling like they were the same stories and the same types of characters. I mean, they started like making more Cable type characters, making more Wolverine type characters, making more Spider-Man type characters. It just kind of got everyone's the fucking same. I lost interest for a good few years.
No, to me, what really killed it was what came afterwards, which was hiring hacks. Not just as writers, but also as editors. And things like, Marvel, for example, you've got this MCU thing going on. And this is something that I saw several times, where the thing was that comic books in general have been their audience has been getting older and older, and fewer kids are getting the bug, right? Well, then you have, this movie comes out, Iron Man, right? And you got a mom who comes into the comic book shop with her little boy wanting an Iron Man comic. And they go to the newsstand where all the new comics are for that month, and you've got a comic book called Iron Man that doesn't have Iron Man in it. It's got this character called Iron Heart, which is a black girl. Well, the kid's not going to want that because he wants the character that he saw in the movie. And the only place in the comic book shop to get stories of that character is to either go into the back issues, which is asking a lot of a parent to do, or getting a collected edition trade paperback, and that stars him, and that's, you're asking for like $20 at that point, when they could have, she probably came in there just expecting to spend maybe $4 or $5 to get a comic book with the character in it.
I don't know where you've been shopping, but when Iron Man came out, they had the Iron Man comics and right by the front door on the racks, and Berkeley and
when Iron Man came out, that is correct. When the first Iron Man movie came out, that is correct. They still had some on the racks, but as time went on, especially when you get closer to the first Avengers film, that's when they started receding it. They actually made Iron Man. They actually made Iron Man a villain in the comics and had him get killed, and then they either cloned him or grabbed a younger version of him from an alternate reality to replace him. It was a convoluted mess, and the thing was that the creative teams at Marvel Comics did not want to change what they were doing to fit the films, and couldn't see the value in doing so, even just temporarily.
There wasn't a lot of synergy going on.
No, there wasn't. And that was part of the problem. You have the biggest movies of all time at the time coming out featuring your characters, and you want to make the Hulk an Asian boy that nobody's ever heard of.
Hold on. Amadeus Cho was actually I like the Amadeus Cho storyline. I thought that was really well done.
Right, but he should not have replaced the Hulk he should not have replaced the Hulk at the time when the whole country was loving the Hulk and Bruce Banner.
That I can respect. Yeah, that I can respect.
Yeah. I mean, having a junior, character on the side like that's fine. We've been doing that. They've been doing that forever. But that was a big problem. It was something that Marvel Comics just for some reason couldn't do anymore, and then, that was a big problem.
Then they adapt the Civil War storyline, which Civil War was okay. I didn't think it was great. It was okay, but they make a great film out of it that only took basically the name and the fact that it was superheroes fighting. They they dumbed it down to the point where it was actually good.
I disagree. I don't think they dumbed it down to the point it was good.
I don't think they dumbed it down. They just downsized
it. They simplified it.
Yeah. Right. Well, they downsized it to the size of the film universe. That's what they did.
But for that whole synergy thing we were talking about, so instead of Marvel, either reprinting the Civil War arc, they create Civil War 2, which was just stupid.
Right.
I'm sorry. I thought Civil War 2 is it's the same storyline, essentially, except, instead of registration, it's precognition. It's still the same thing, as far as I'm concerned. And it was a stupid reason to get them to fight again. And of course, they had to make Tony the villain.
The Age of Ultron was also another one where it's like, okay, in the movie version, they should have called it the Week and a Half of Ultron instead of the Age of Ultron. But you could change the nature of the title. They're trying to prevent the Age of Ultron.
Well, to be fair, Age of Ultron is a freaking awesome title.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah.
Am I wrong here? I think Age of Ultron is one of the best Marvel movies.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree because, okay, here's why I don't disagree on that. Because they did exactly what they were trying to do. They played on Tony's fear, his paranoia, and his ego. And they were able to manipulate that.
But why is it when I hear other people talking about it, they hate Age of Ultron so freaking much? So many of the other YouTube channels that I've watched think that Age of Ultron is like the worst one for the Avengers. And I'm like, no, this was great.
No, you know what was great about it? You know what was great about it? It was literally like, oh, we had this great, our heroes won. Oh, our heroes are going to win. Our heroes didn't really win in the end in this.
No.
But the thing about it, I too think that Age of Ultron is the worst Avengers film, but that doesn't mean it's a bad movie. It's just of the four that we've gotten. If you want to, I almost said three, but I forgot that there were four. I think that it's the low point, but it's sort of like, and this is a bit of a cliche. It's the Empire Strikes Back. If you sandwich Infinity War and Endgame into one story, and to make it a trilogy, then yes, this is the downer upon which that a lot of the problems in the next movies they had to deal with.
Darren, I literally was going to say that, but I kept that reference out of my mouth. But you said it. Yep, I thought the same thing.
I mean, there were things in there that obviously the romance between Black Widow and the Hulk was something that didn't come from the comics, and I thought it was a little bit out of left field.
I don't think that
they made it work.
Call that romance.
Yeah, what I wouldn't call it a
puppy
romance.
Love thing.
Two, I wouldn't say it was a romance between Black Widow and the Hulk. It was a romance between Natasha and Banner.
Sure,
that's entirely different.
Right. No, here's what I think it was. They both had very complicated pasts in their own rights. There were certain things that they were able to bond between, and I think at that point, this was kind of a transition. Is this more of a romance or is it more of a friendship? We obviously figure out it eventually develops into a friendship, but anybody who's been in any kind of relationship with a friend or something, sometimes of the opposite sex, sometimes, lines get a little misconfused.
Yeah. Oh, someone else trying to come up? Sorry, I didn't even see you there. David's watching this on one of Elihu's cross streaming, and he's saying that Black Widow and the Hulk more like Beauty and the Beast. I'd say yes, without the Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, there is another factor too, and that is we knew from the first film that Natasha was deathly afraid of the Hulk. That scene when they first encounter each other and she has him at gunpoint and her eyes are getting wet because she's got this stress because she knows that all she knows how to do is shoot him, but here's a guy that if you shoot him he turns into something way worse.
Really pissed off.
Exactly. And then later in the movie, he's pissed at her, or the Hulk is pissed at her and chasing her, and she's terrified. She's hurt her ankle. So there's this weird thing where maybe she's attracted to the fact that she's afraid of him. There's some psychological stuff going on there
Well,
wasn't
it?
fully
How
explored.
did she say it? How did she say it exactly? He's always struggling to stay in control or something like that. Like they both have a understanding of trying to stay in control because if they lose it, and maybe that was kind of like, man, if I was him, that's what I would probably do. Kind of a psychological effect there.
I don't know. I know that they didn't really flesh it out very much. It's like the next movie, they're sort of like a couple to a degree. The kind of couple we used to have in comics all the time, where there was no smooching and no obviously no hunka chunka, but it was like the relationships were on the level of grade school crushes from the 50s, right? That was the level of kind of a romance we used to have, and that's kind of what they had there.
Well, it kind of fits considering their situations, don't you think?
Right. I mean, you can make reasons for it, but I mean, again, it was one of the frustrating things is I'm a huge Hulk fan. The Hulk has been my favorite character in comics since I was very small, and we finally got a great version of the Hulk in movies, and they didn't flesh him out. I think, okay, we got our guy now. Let's make another movie, and really get into the Hulk lore, and then they sort of cure him,
All right, so let's go off on a tangent real quick since we're already on another tangent away from the main topic. But
sorry.
Darren, what storyline of the Hulk would you like to see made into another MCU movie as of right now?
Please don't say Skara. Please don't say Skara.
They already did World War Hulk to an extent, so I'm not gonna.
Well, they did. Well, not World War. They did Planet Hulk to an
Sorry,
extent.
you're
World War
correct.
Hulk
Thank
is
you.
the sequel.
Thank you for correcting me.
But no, the one I would actually think that they would make one of the best story arcs either a MCU show on Disney Plus or a film would be the Las Vegas. The Las Vegas era of the Hulk, where the world thought the Hulk was dead. The Hulk had changed into his gray version, so he didn't look the same anymore. And he was hired as basically an enforcer for a casino owner in Las Vegas, and it was the Hulk protecting this casino owner from the local mob, and the mob kept sending tougher and tougher people to try to run this guy. He was calling himself Mr. Fix-It, Joe Fix-It at the time, and it was great because we got the Hulk. Nobody knew this was the Hulk. Obviously, everybody thinks the Hulk is green and 7 feet, 10 feet tall, whatever. Whereas his Joe Fix-It version was significantly shorter. And gray skinned and was talkative. He was more like Mr. Hyde than the Hulk was, and it was great because when you freed him of his reputation, you got to see what he was in. Got to know him more, and it was. I would adapt.
It was a great time to read Hulk.
Yeah, I would adapt that. And then, because from there you can end. I mean, if you want to bring him back to the status quo later, you can do that. But that whole thing was such a. It was like the Hulk in the Sopranos, sort of, rolled into one. It was pretty good. That's what I would do.
And wasn't the Gray Hulk part of the new Fantastic Four?
Yeah, there was a brief moment where the Fantastic Four went missing, and Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, Wolverine, and the Hulk basically
became the new Fantastic Four.
They became the new Fantastic Four so they could go find the original Fantastic Four. Yeah, it was kind of a joke, but it was.
Well, I remember this very distinct panel where the Hulk is holding up something. He's like, Spider-Man, I'm getting tired. Can you go hold this for me? And I just thought that was such a funny line, being like, the Hulk isn't even tired. This probably ain't bothering him. He's just bored. And he's like, you come over here and lift this. And I was like, it was so out of character for the Green Hulk. It was just
right.
The Gray Hulk had such, oh my God.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know,
that era of him.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, where the Gray Hulk actually came from was sort of a retcon. Stan Lee originally wanted the Hulk to be gray, but the printer couldn't come up with a consistent gray page after page, so he settled on green because that was easier for the printer to do consistently. And so in the late 80s, comic book printing had improved to the point where you could do a solid gray. So Peter David, the writer, had the Hulk retconned the Hulk to where his initial night that he changed into the Hulk, he was actually gray and not green, but nobody noticed it because it happened at night. And then he became green later on. And so he had the Hulk regress into his original Stan Lee, Jack Kirby inspired version, which was a little bit less powerful, but that didn't really matter because the anger factor was still at work. But this version of the Hulk could carry on a sentence. He talked like he was kind of like the Thing, only he had was a even broodier personality. And that's in fact one of the reasons why the Hulk's speech pattern came about, was because in I think the third issue of the Hulk, the Fantastic Four guest starred, and Stan realized that the dialogue for the Hulk and the Thing were practically the same, so he gave the Hulk that sort of Tonto, Tarzan, and Frankenstein Hulk speak,
Yeah.
Yeah.
to make it stand out from the Thing, because he didn't want to change the Thing, because at the time the
broken
Thing,
English.
Yeah, the Thing as part of the Fantastic Four was their best-selling comic at the time. So you're not gonna change them. You're gonna change this other thing called the Hulk instead.
Well,
and that's where it came from.
With the whole time travel and parallel universes stuff, what would I was thinking more of bringing in the Maestro.
I think that's too much to ask for a general audience. I think part of this problem that we have with the MCU is their decision to go with the multiverse angle. I think that that's an angle that whole concept is better in comics than it is in mainstream entertainment. I think they got to go back to basics a little bit when it comes to that. Focus on one universe and the things going on there, and leave the multiverse stuff alone.
Isn't the MCU supposed to introduce the leader?
And I already typed it in, but yeah, David, the original premise of this was so bad it's good films, and I would definitely include guilty pleasures in those, even if just anything like that. To drag it kicking and screaming back to that premise, like one of the movies that I enjoyed recently. By recently, I mean within the last couple of years, was a parody of a parody called Stripperland. It was basically because Zombieland is a parody of zombie movies. Well, this was a parody of Zombieland where the virus turns everybody into flesh-eating strippers, regardless of their male, female. They just become, flesh-eating strippers. And the ending of that movie made the entirety for me. I'm not going to give it away, but it was freaking awesome based on who comes to the rescue at the end of the movie. But yeah, go watch. If you haven't seen Stripperland, go watch it. It's stupid, it's inane, and it's utterly enjoyable. And they don't really do a lot of the TNA. They're bathing suits, but there's not really a lot of nudity.
One movie that I think just gets worse and worse every year, but I still like to watch it, is the original Cannonball Run. Because so many of the jokes and references that are in that movie were, you had to be up on current events in 1979 or 80 when it came out.
Hot Sally Field.
Not in Cannonball Run. Cannonball
Run.
Sorry,
I was thinking
Farrah Fawcett.
Farrah Fawcett. Yeah. Sorry, Farrah Fawcett. Sorry, I was thinking it was Snooki.
Yeah, but that's the type of movie they could remake every few years, in my opinion, and then you can go back and enjoy the originals. Because, like,
I don't know.
as far as I'm concerned, when they did a Rat Race, that was basically a remake of Cannonball Run.
There's a remake of Mad World.
Yeah.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
You know, some people would say that the original RoboCop is a bad movie that people regard highly. I think it's actually a pretty good movie in terms of its construction, especially.
The layering of RoboCop, I can't say it's a bad movie because you can watch it as a straight up action flick. You can watch it as an allegory of the 80s economics situation. You can watch it as a religious allegory. I mean, it has so many layers. It can't be considered bad. And I got a lot of dogs barking, so I'm going to mute.
You can watch how somebody, when they're dying, their arms all suddenly stretch.
I had a college professor who in creative writing who declared in the like when somebody mentioned movies, he asked, "What do you think is the best science fiction movie of all time?" He hands down and said RoboCop. He says that's got more context and layering and subtext than a lot of books. He said, and everybody was just taken aback, because they were expecting him to say something like A Clockwork Orange or 2001: A Space Odyssey. Nope. this movie that was almost given an X rating. That's the one he wants.
All right, I'm gonna tell you this right now. I know. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen Cannonball Run. I know absolutely nothing about it. I have no clue what the movie is about. And I have never had anybody give me a reason to see it. Other than they say it's a great movie. You want a giggity?
Burt Reynolds in his prime, basically.
Well, to go back to RoboCop just for a second.
That was Smokey and the Bandit.
Go to YouTube and just listen to the RoboCop theme song, and pay attention to it because, God, I can't remember who did the music for that film, but
Basil Polidoris did the music.
Sorry,
Basil Polidoris did the theme to RoboCop.
Well, thank you because I could not remember that. The fact that he throws in not just the instrumentals. He has the anvil, the hammer and anvil. He has saws going. Yeah. And it's to show his transformation from man into part machine. And then when it swells up, you have all the strings coming back, showing he's regaining his humanity. It's all in a 3-minute fucking theme. He relays the entirety of the movie, and it's so freaking awesome. How did they make that back then? It is amazing.
Yeah. The other thing I like about the RoboCop theme is it actually sounds like a corporate jingle. It sounds like music that you would find in a corporate presentation. Like when the horns. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that whole thing. It's.
Hey, didn't the guy who played in RoboCop end up being Senator Kingsley in Stargate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, now I can't remember his name.
No, I don't know his name. It doesn't matter his name. I'm
Peter
just
Weller.
saying I know the reference.
No, not Peter Weller.
Dick,
the guy that
Dick.
played Dick Jones.
Dick Jones.
Jones, yeah. Well, that was a period of time where Ronnie Cox, that was the actor's name, was getting all kinds of work as villains and antagonists and stuff. I mean, he even got to play something of one on Star Trek at one point.
All right, let's put it this way. I got to be honest. I've got to be honest here. There is something very chilling at my age now versus when I saw this movie. When he is, the guy is about to die, and he literally recorded a revenge message on him. I'm like, oh, that is some dark. Even as a kid, I was like, that is some dark level shit.
Yeah, he recorded it at his desk. Sitting at his desk. Yeah, like
as if it's going to just another coworker.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. I'm just like, he is so nonchalant about this, and he's taking so much joy in what's about to happen, and it's happening, and the guy's looking. I'm like, wow, this is like literally, in my opinion, like the equivalent of being buried with your head up in the sand, just waiting for the tide to come in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the analogy, the best analogy I can come up with.
Well,
that
yeah,
shit was brutal. That was a level of brutal and just evil.
He shot him in the leg so he couldn't run away, and then he put a grenade on his coffee table.
Yeah,
and he couldn't get away or do anything. And it's just,
yeah, but I mean, it was just. I mean, of all that movie, seriously, that was the chillingest moment. I'm sorry, Murphy getting shot up. Yeah, that was brutalizing. That thing, that was just pure evil.
David, they are called Krites, not critters. Krites, okay?
Okay, the film series is Critters, so stop trying to be so pedantic, Elihu. And yes,
Mike.
I love
Mike. We want the Krites, not critters.
Okay, are you sure you're not chemically enhanced?
No, I was just playing on that because it was the good moment for it. Sorry, I can't do what the guy did in the show where he goes, "We want the Krites." I can't be that monotone.
Yeah, you're not clean shaven. You have no sunglasses.
To answer your question, yes, I love the original Killer Tomatoes movie. I love how it's presented. I love how it's filmed here in San Diego. Sorry, I live in San Diego, so I almost automatically love any movie that's filmed here.
Jurassic Park.
No, just Jurassic Park 2 and parts of it. And the theme song for that, God, Killer Tomatoes definitely falls under that so bad it's good category. So, even though it's one I've seen, I'm adding to the list.
Which one, movie or the cartoon?
Yeah, see, that's the key thing. I never saw the movie, but I saw the cartoon. And the cartoon, Elihu, you got to admit, was fun as hell.
Which one?
Yeah. Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
The cartoon show, yeah.
That shit was so much fun back in the day.
It definitely falls under the so bad it's good category, though. So, yeah, thank you, David, for that one.
After school cartoon.
Well, okay.
Hold on.
I've never seen it. What happened in the movie?
And Attack of the Killer Tomatoes?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Basically, exactly what it says on the tin. Killer Tomatoes starts killing people in various funny ways, all being reported by the news, being handled by an inept government, and they still end up killing them all at the end for the most part.
You know, that would be a great movie to adapt now.
No. It does not need to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we'd have people picketing out, tomatoes have rights.
Okay, once you say it like that, now I can see it being remade if you're doing it as in, like, the tomatoes v. humans, and you actually have, like, a tomato that tries to take humans to court. That would be fucking funny.
Exactly.
And, salad is murder. Ketchup is murder.
Mrs. Vile's nephew decided to join me in the van to play with the Transformer again.
He went in the glove box.
Oh, come on. Wouldn't that be funny? Wouldn't that be funny? A tomato in court arguing.
Ketchup is murder. Ketchup is murder. Don't eat pizza.
And now he's leaving.
He found his toy and he left, okay?
Yep. Adios.
I think that could be a very funny satire.
You ever see that movie? What's his name? Morgan Stewart's Coming Home with John Cryer.
No, I don't think I've seen that one.
No.
John Cryer movie is obviously he plays a son of a senator who's invited to come home and live with his family after being in a boys' boarding school for like 10 years, and he's a huge monster movie fan, and he finds this girl who also is, and they go on a date. The movie they go to is Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. It's a pretty fun little movie. I'd recommend it to anybody who wants to see a fun little movie.
Sorry, say the title again, and I'll add it to the list just in case.
Morgan Stewart's Coming Home.
I'm sorry, John Cryer will and forever always be the Duck Man.
Ducky, yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
From Pretty in Pink, yeah. Yeah. But there was a time when he was making movies. I mean, one of my highest viewed movies on my videos on my channel is a review I did of Hiding Out, which was another movie of his that I like, obviously, since I made a video about it.
Howard the Duck's bad, but I love that.
I will say, you don't always make films of movies you like. Even one of the vile reviews I did back in the day was of a movie I thought was horrible, called, what was it? The Resort. It was just bad.
Is that beach where people age?
Video about it.
Is that movie where people age on the beach?
No, that's old.
Oh, okay.
That's old, yeah.
Yeah, that was stupid. It's like, how did that one guy who was stuck there?
Nobody cares. Go on. Well, Mike.
But like the resort was supposed to be about a haunted resort on Hawaii, but there is a ghost haunting it. The ghost kills one person, and then the person they killed comes back to life and is the one that actually kills everybody else. For the most part, except for a haunted truck. They literally have a haunted truck that traps someone in and drives off a cliff to kill somebody, and the way it's done is the most stupid way possible, because they're like, we'll try to shatter the windshield, the one window that can't break, so instead of the side windows, which are designed to shatter. Yeah, that's smart. Sorry, it was just, go watch the review. It was bad. Here, I'll even post a link. I'll see if I can post a link to it, just because it's my shortest one, because it was just not worth talking about that much. I just wanted to say how bad it was.
Getting back to just briefly one more little thing about Morgan Stewart's Coming Home. The director on that movie is listed as Alan Smithy, which, if you know anything about,
one of those.
Yeah, if you know anything about Hollywood and that name, if you looked up Alan Smithy's filmography, you'd find movies stretching over a span of 40 years. Alan Smithy's not a real person. It's a director name that is used whenever the director doesn't want their name on the movie.
Man, Alan Smith, he should have directed the Transformers.
All right, here, I'm posting the link for anyone who actually cares to watch it. Well, the Transformers movies were definitely a guilty pleasure for me, because I was a Transformers. I still collect Transformers. But I kind of got tired of the formula. And that's what really left me not liking Rise of the Beasts, because it went straight back to the goddamn formula of, all the other Michael Bay Transformers movies. And I was like, you just had Bumblebee, which was great. Why not,
build off of that?
Follow that thing. Not
why
to
make
say it's formula, but
why about making a prequel?
Well, the thing I liked about Bumblebee was they made the Transformers look a lot more like the original, like, toys and cartoon
G1
figures. Like Optimus Prime was much better. I mean, he's finally an international cab again, and that was one of the big problems I had with the Michael Bay film. Was the robots were too busy looking.
They were overcomplicated, Yeah,
they should have been simple shapes that shuffle, and easiest thing in the world. They overcomplicated it, but and then also, I mean, I was sure they were going for was that military unit that gets pursued by Scorponok through the desert, which is one of my favorite parts of the movie. I was sure that was going to become the core of G.I. Joe, and they didn't do that. So,
But
yeah.
Yeah, the whole I hate the fact that they keep redoing the Transformers actually have a connection to ancient Earth in some way, because that's what they all did, and all of them except for Bumblebee.
Right.
I hate the fact that it's giant pillar in the sky type thing that you got to one MacGuffin in order to prevent it. It's tiring, and I didn't want to see it. I liked Ron Perlman as Optimus Primal, but he doesn't do much. He's an exposition monkey.
Yeah.
But I hope in the future they're gonna go off script and just, or at least off formula, and make another good Transformers movie.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
I will say this, for at least Transformers, they seem to get good actors, and I don't know how they keep doing that.
Oh, they probably throw on a lot of money, But I thought it was kind of funny when they got around to the MacGuffin was renamed the Allspark, because they figured that if they called it the Matrix like they did in the original show, people would get confused, because the Matrix movies were still coming out at that point.
Well, remember, they originally were going to call it the Energon Cube. The Energon Cube.
The Energon Cube, yeah. Which is dumb. But yeah.
At least when they decided to call it the Allspark, that was something that was mentioned in Beast Machines. So it had a slight connection, even though it was entirely different in its portrayal. That I can understand. But most of the others, I mean, the first, I'd say 3 Transformers movies are guilty pleasures for me. I can watch them and enjoy them. I even like Revenge of the Fallen in that regard. But by the time of the 4th movie, it's the same exact plot. Just stop.
Yeah.
I'm tired of everything having a connection to ancient Earth in one way or the other.
Right.
I can watch the first movie and maybe the one with Mark Wahlberg, but that's it. After that, no.
I don't think I can even watch the Mark Wahlberg one.
Who's Mark Wahlberg?
He said Wahlberg. He didn't say Wahlberg.
Oh, I heard
Clean your ears out.
Sorry.
And David asks, is there a TV series we would consider so bad it's good? Shoot, what's the one? Beastmaster.
Grimm.
I would definitely count that one.
Grimm.
Yeah. Supernatural.
Fuck you, and fuck you about Grimm.
Why, you don't like Grimm?
No, I love Grimm.
Okay, but think about the premise for a second, and how stupid it is, and still how good the series was.
Yes, exactly. That's not so bad. It's good. That's so.
The premise is bad.
They managed to take a stupid idea and make it work.
That's why it's so bad it's good.
When Grimm comes on Comet, I'll watch it.
Yeah, I actually have a suggestion for that, since you asked what TV shows are so bad they're good. I would vote for Hemlock Grove.
Oh,
I've never heard of that one.
I've seen that.
Never heard of it.
Yes, yeah, that was on Netflix. It had Famke Janssen and Bill Skarsgård in it, and a few other actors, and Doug Ray Scott. And it was based off of a book, and it features essentially werewolves, vampires, and undead, and other shit. And it's I guess they did 3 seasons. I think I may have only seen the first 2, but
dude, that show was so messed up.
It was bad too. It was, the acting was bad. And
it was bad, dude. That was so bad.
But I couldn't stop watching the shit.
I know. Oh my god! You're like you're looking at this
one on the list.
thing. No, this one. No,
I'll be right back.
I know
I'm
what
going to
he's
make more
talking
coffee.
about. This is literally bad CGI, bad writing, bad acting, and it's like for some reason we kept coming back.
Yeah.
And I watched the whole thing. I mean, it was just like, okay, Good.
All right. I'm going to say a TV series that is so bad it's good, that is probably going to get me in trouble with a certain person who's probably listening while in her kitchen right now.
Uh-oh.
Doctor Who.
You know, you're absolutely right when it came to the last few years.
Hey, let's
part
be
of
honest.
Its charm
That's
is the bad effect.
Hey, let's remember, we are talking about a show that has been going on for longer than we've all been alive.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So I don't think that's a fair way to do it, because you can take a show that long and break it up into certain portions.
Okay, let me see if I can clarify a little bit. The first Doctor Who that I ever saw, second I should say, because I did watch the movie with my dad a long time ago on VHS, but I didn't remember it at the time that it was Doctor Who until I rewatched it later on, was the 2005 reboot with Eccleston. And the entire time I'm watching that first episode, and I'm like, the villains are mannequins. How much of a shitty budget can you really talk about for this thing? But it was the writing that got me into it. And yes, as I said, it was going to piss off somebody who's listening. And yes, you're a vet. But since then, I've become a large Doctor Who fan. I'm not the biggest fan because I haven't watched all the New Who stuff. I haven't watched Flux yet. But I'm just saying, the charm of Doctor Who, part of the charm is the bad effects and how they make it a legitimate threat.
Don't talk shit about Capaldi. Capaldi rocks.
Well, you gotta remember though that the special effects that Doctor Who has always employed were the best available for television at that time.
And let's be honest. Let's give the effects are one thing on the older Who, but let's be honest. They all took it seriously. They didn't treat it as a joke. The actors took this shit seriously.
And part of that is why, like when I was really talking about Slaughterhouse, was how the characters in the story take everything 100% serious. And that's one of the things about Doctor Who I enjoyed, was the characters took it as serious despite the silliness aspect of it. And that makes it really good. And
the silliest aspect of our perspective now, that might not have even been silly back then when it was done. Cheap effects, yes, but they didn't do like other people did with cheap effects and just half-ass it. They took it seriously. You got to go with the times here and how serious they took what they were given. I mean, that is some shit.
There wasn't a person in a rubber suit every episode. That was so great about it. That was a center trope. You got a monster or a bad guy, person in a rubber suit. Not Doctor Who.
Sharing an image.
Sorry. And then going back to Doctor Who, I mean, come on, Yvette. The original Cybermen costumes
were pretty fucking good.
No, I think the original Cyberman costumes were fucking lame as all hell. But the fact that they took them serious is what makes me enjoy those episodes.
That's because they made the most of the effort to do with what they had, and the actors took it seriously.
Eccleston bald.
Right. This is from the future, November 23rd, 2043. Afternoon of the Doctor. It's a joke, obviously, a poster, but it was on Twitter.
I like that. That's funny.
I do like Matt Smith with no hair.
I did not see the date on that, Darren. So I'm like, please tell me they're not actually doing this.
I like seeing Capaldi with that really solid kind of white hair beard.
Yeah.
I could so have seen that if he had done that later.
I don't know about David Tennant's mustache, but it's
no.
And then of course Jodie's back there.
Wait a minute, David Tennant's. What would the mustache be a representation of?
I don't know.
And
They
British
just
culture.
assumed. I mean, two of them have beards that don't have beards when they're playing the doctor. So it's.
Andromeda. Andromeda is one of those shows where I liked it at the beginning, but by the end, I hated the series. And I'm not going to go into.
No,
But,
you're not
you
going to go
know-
against Kevin Sorbo again, are you?
Okay,
Did I miss the homophobic talk?
Darren, even before his, as I said, edge of the cliff moment, I thought the last 2 or 3 seasons of Andromeda were just bad. The first season was awesome. Once they reestablished the Commonwealth, I thought the series started going downhill.
I would agree.
I feel the same way about Capaldi's run as the Doctor. I thought Capaldi was outstanding, but he wasn't given the best material to work with. They were really actively trying to make him just not likable, and I'm like, this he deserved better material, and unfortunately the material got worse and worse and into the next Doctor. But
I disagree. I thought Capaldi. I liked Capaldi. I really enjoyed him for the first 2 seasons. I didn't like the last season with Bill. I had a lot of issues with Bill. A lot of
Pots.
But
that was where I said. But I'll tell you what. I was like, if I ever have an endpoint with Doctor Who, which currently I do, I ended it at the Husbands of River Song because I just thought that wrapped everything up perfectly for me.
I love the way Capaldi said, "Hello, sweetie."
Yes.
all right,
2 hops, 2 this, 2 that. But it tied so much all the way back into when she saw David Tennant.
Yeah.
I did go back and because I'd stopped right when Capaldi left, but I did watch the first season with Jodie Whittaker, and I can understand why a lot of people hated it, but I didn't hate her as the Doctor. I hated Chibnall.
yeah,
Chin balls.
yeah.
His writing is just. I can't understand how he was popular at all.
It's pronounced
Yeah,
chin balls.
he wasn't.
have an issue
Chibnall was not known for being a writer of the best episodes of Doctor Who. He did the filler shit episodes. He did that had gimmicks with them, like the countdown type of thing. That was one of his favorite things to do, is have a countdown, And initially, when people said that he was going to take over as Doctor Who, or as the showrunner, a whole bunch of people were rejoicing, and some of the more critical people were like, "Well, wait a minute, I can understand, you getting excited when Moffat was going to become the showrunner, because some of the best episodes of RTD's run were written by Moffat. I mean, Silence in the Library, Blink, but there was nothing on Chibnall's resume that suggested that he was going to be a good showrunner, and it turned out that what the BBC wanted was a yes man, and that's what they got, and that's what we got. But what I would have done instead, if you had to have Jodie Whittaker on the show, I would have had the Doctor go missing, and Jodie Whittaker play her own time lady that went searching for him, and that would have been. And she takes the title of the Doctor only to go looking for him. That would have been, I think, a much better way of handling it, instead of retconning the entire concept of the Doctor and Doctor Who and Time Lords and all that kind of stuff. I mean, longtime fans are like, who does Chibnall think he is? That was a problem.
Well, bring back because you can always bring back a Time Lord for whatever reason you want to, because of contrivance,
right?
But bring back what's her name from
Romana.
I was gonna say Rowena, but I'm like, no, that's the Ravenclaw person from Harry Potter. You could bring her back, but I will say, the fact that the Doctor turned into a woman, that aspect of it didn't bug me at all, and I know it bugged a lot of people. But I do think
never understood why. Okay, here's why I never understood why. I remember all the way back to Tom Baker when Romana was doing a regeneration,
Right.
and she
Right.
came back as various different,
Yeah.
not only sexes but different species.
Yeah, she didn't change sex. She just changed species. And
Yeah,
look,
that's
it
right.
was the old show firmly established that they were Time Lords and Time Ladies, and they had very different regeneration. It was almost like comparing orgasms. The female Time Lady, had multiple, and she could choose between a bunch of different ones before she settled on one, whereas the guy just had one great big explosion, and whatever he got, and all that was thrown out the window. And it started with a line that
The Corsair could
Moffat. No, it started before that, when Moffat
before that. I'm sorry.
had the Fifth Doctor, upon regenerating, feeling the length of his hair and thinking he was a girl and being shocked, and then he felt his Adam's apple and realized he wasn't a girl. And what happened then was that Neil Gaiman, an expatriated Brit who lives in Wisconsin, wrote an episode called the Doctor's Wife, in which he established the Corsair. But so people think it was him, but his excuse was that, no, I got it from this line in the at the end of Tennant's run when he turns into Smith, and I think that was kind of a flimsy excuse, given that the astonishment on Matt Smith's face, that for a moment there he thought he might be a girl, was sort of evidence that doesn't happen.
I'm not ginger.
Yeah, and so it's Neil Gaiman is regarded as a great writer, particularly when it comes to comics and stuff. But when it came to Doctor Who, he didn't even understand what the sign on the front of the TARDIS was for. He said that there's it's a famous little thing that happened in Doctor's Wife where the TARDIS in that episode becomes an actual person that the Doctor can talk to. And she goes, "What does the sign on my door say?" It says "pull to open." And what do? I push. He says, because you push to enter the TARDIS. Well, that sign doesn't refer to the door to get into the TARDIS. It refers to the little door that pops out the phone. And so and so that line didn't work, but they ran with it anyway. And it kind of revealed just how much Neil Gaiman knew about Doctor Who and the TARDIS. It was a terrible error, and
error, but still a good episode. Amazing.
Oh, it was good. It was a great episode otherwise, but but that's a sticking point. I try not to let one line ruin an entire episode for me, but sometimes it's hard.
But when Missy came around, I thought Missy was a really well done storyline, especially for the Master. Sorry for spoiling it if anyone hasn't watched it.
Well, she should have been the Ronnie, is what she should have been.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know about that much about Ronnie in Doctor Who. As I said, I've missed a lot of original Who. I've gone back and watched some of it, but not everything.
Well, the Ronnie was a female. It was a Time Lady who was also evil, and I think her specialty was archaeology. But she was basically a female Master, but she wasn't the Master. That was kind of the point.
I still think Missy was well done, to be honest.
The actress who played the character
well done. It's that Missy could have been the Ronnie.
I'm sorry. I still
have been well done.
They could have expanded Doctor Who lore by having her be the Ronnie or having her be somebody else and giving her gravitas that way, but they didn't.
Sasha was a great Master.
Nobody's saying Sasha wasn't a great Master. What we're saying is, she could have even been a better, unique, original character, or even been a character that we haven't seen since the original series. I think that's where Darren's going.
Yeah. There were ways they could have had these characters and not violated continuity and ticked off the fan base, but that's not what the BBC wanted. And the BBC got what they wanted, and that's why the franchise is no longer in their complete control now.
Well, I
mean,
do
it's
know
gonna-
I will go back and watch Flux eventually. I have no interest in really going to watch it right now.
Yeah.
Because that's where I've stopped at, is right before Flux.
Yeah. And I don't think bringing back David Tennant and what's her face is gonna help. I think that's just gonna make people miss it more. But we'll see.
Well, I'm probably going to hold off on watching anything new for Doctor Who for a while. Probably go, as I said, I'm trying to watch a bunch of other stuff. I finally watched, literally last night before I watched Slaughterhouse, was I caught up on Cobra Kai, and, well, not caught up on, I finished season 3 of Cobra
Nice.
Kai, and I thought, God, that show is one of those ones that does not deserve to be as good as it is, considering its source material.
No, it doesn't, but it fucking is.
Don't get me wrong. I love the Karate Kid movies. I even like the Jennifer Garner, the next Karate Kid movie, but they were never.
That's not Jennifer Garner. That's not Jennifer Garner.
Sorry, who is it then? What's her name? Because I thought it was Jennifer Garner.
No, it's not Jennifer Garner. She wasn't there. It was the other one. Oh, fuck. What's her name?
Sorry,
Next
I'll let-
Karate Kid is what you're talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Hillary
Swank. Hillary Swank.
I don't know. God, they look so similar.
Thank you, Positive.
Positive Candor gave his contribution. Wow.
Positive Candor, you the man.
And when it comes to that kind of stuff, I have no problems being corrected, especially when I'm that wrong. So, but yes, Hillary Swank.
Hey, Mike.
I even like that one. But
Hey, Mike, I'm going to just call it. I got some stuff I got to do. I'm just going to listen in on the back. You guys have a good one.
all righty.
Later, dude.
Yeah.
Later.
But yeah, I'm thoroughly enjoying Cobra Kai. I mean, they have their writing team. I'm thoroughly impressed by, because they're able to create drama in a believable way, even though the consequences of the drama should be everyone's in jail. In real life, everyone would have just gone to prison. Sorry, I'm texting Mrs. Vile real quick.
Oh, I was just wanting to text myself. Sorry.
So, all right. What else would be so bad it's good that we could talk about?
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Are you talking about the film, or are you talking about the series? Because the series was always good, as far as I'm concerned. The film,
The movie.
the movie was definitely bad in certain aspects, but it still has that Narm charm thing.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, I'm muting myself because of guy playing music.
yeah, I had a parade outside my window yesterday, so I know how that goes.
I can usually hear the parades and marches on Market Street from my house. Which I'm not looking forward
Right,
to
keep your eye.
Thursday. I'm not looking forward to Thursday because that means Blue Angels are going to be flying about 50 feet from my window. Oy.
That's pretty low, or are you in a skyscraper?
I'm on the 5th floor. They fly really low over the buildings.
Oh, you exaggerated.
No, I've taken pictures before from my window. You can see the pilot's
Yeah.
helmet. This was not a stupid picture. Okay? They
Yeah,
fly
yeah.
low,
I guess they-
Sorry.
which is really stupid because I know they do their turns like, okay, we're going to do a hard right up angle at the bush that looks like a cow over the city, right, for their practice maneuvers. But the entire show is over the water. I don't understand why they have to do the thing over the city. Come on. There's no markers in the water.
Wait, are you
Come on.
complaining about the fucking Blue Angels?
Yes. They
Stop
ran on my,
complaining about the Blue Angels. The Blue Angels are awesome.
yeah, but they ran on my ship.
Well, you should
Stop
have
complaining.
arranged to be out of town.
Yeah, I can understand if you're going to complain about the
You
Thunderbirds.
go on so
but
many
not the
trips
Blue Angels.
anyway. Yeah, you should have planned your trips around them.
Hey, my trip is planned around the Ring of Fire, okay, on the 18th.
I don't care what's going on with your asshole.
Now, great. Now you got me thinking about his asshole.
Yes. Oh God, I was going to say stop eating Taco Bell, and you won't have that issue with the Ring of Fire. But on Friday, when I picked up my kids from school, they wanted to go to Taco Bell, and while I was there, I sent a picture to Mrs. Vile about, because she hates Taco Bell because of how bad of imitation Mexican it is.
Yeah.
So when I sent her the photo of us eating at Taco Bell, she had to post that photo to Facebook, basically saying, I failed as a girlfriend, as a stepmother, and as a Mexican for letting them eat there. And it was funny.
In my part of the country, Wisconsin, we have another chain called Taco John's, right? Not Taco Juan's, Taco John's. And that doesn't even pretend to be Mexican. It calls itself Tex-Mex. And I think that's the way to go. I think that Taco Bell should rebrand itself Ameritex or Amerimex or something, so that it's not confused with Mexican. What I find is so funny is that, and I used to argue with teachers about this. They'd say that, Taco Bell's not Mexican. I'm like, really? Because when I go to the drive-thru, you know what I see? I see a whole bunch of names of Mexican food. And, what they're talking about is the quality of the ingredients and
exactly.
Such, and it's dumb. It's like I can buy the shittiest tortillas, the shittiest meat, and you wouldn't have any trouble calling it.
It's like my friends who say, "Let's go get Chinese and go to Panda Express." I'm like, no.
Right. Yeah.
Chinese.
Yeah.
And I took my nieces there to Panda Express because that's where they wanted to go at one point last time when they were out here. And I tried to explain to them, Chinese food doesn't have teriyaki chicken.
Right.
Chinese food doesn't have chow mein.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, what do you mean they don't? I tried to explain to them, well, one of them's a Korean dish, the other one's a Japanese dish. That makes it, by definition, not Chinese food. And of course, they're just like, oh, well, it's all the same thing. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's just cheap food.
Well, it's like saying that McDonald's and Burger King are German restaurants.
Yeah.
And I always get funny looks from the kids when I say that. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's not German. I'm like, where did the hamburger get its name? And they don't know. And I have to explain to them that it's named after Hamburg, Germany, where it originated. And they, And then of course you get some kid and they're going, you mean it's Nazi food? I'm like, no.
Oh.
No.
No, I think that a modern equivalent, because a lot of people wouldn't get the hamburger reference, Darren, would be Der Wiener Schnitzel.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing German about Wiener Schnitzel, despite the name.
Right.
They don't even make schnitzel.
Nobody speaks German.
Oh.
Well, it's funny how many things people don't realize are German. How many companies rather, like Adidas, which is how the Germans pronounce it. We pronounce it Adidas.
Yeah.
That's a German company. So is Puma, for that matter. Matter of fact, Puma and Adidas were two companies started by a pair of brothers. They were in competition with each other.
All right, going way off topic, because David is mentioning Subway and Panda Express. Does anyone here care about the fact that the company that owns Arby's just bought Subway?
Not really.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for reminding me. I forgot to talk to Tim about that.
Well, what's Tim gonna know?
Because Tim's getting bought out.
Well, no, Tim's not
going
getting
to have
bought
new
out.
bosses.
Well,
They're buying Subway, right?
First of all, we're not supposed to talk about Tim's employer like online, when we're live. But yeah,
What Tim?
setting that aside,
You know how many Tims there are?
The Tim that's always,
Random
somebody
Tim
who pays somebody who pays
has
attention.
clue.
Somebody who pays attention will know which Tim you're talking about.
And that Tim mentions it almost every other time where he works.
Dude, know the rules. Anyway, you were saying?
Well, because among
Tim
certain people in at my day job, we're all complaining about how Subway is going to be ruined now because they're not going to be doing certain things. I'm like, Subway's meat and bread, it's never been great. It's something you get when you want to have a large amount of sandwich to fill your belly.
Yeah.
Subway was very different in the 80s when we got our first one here in terms of size, quality, everything.
Yeah, it was much better in the 90s.
I have a
early 90s
Subway right next to me, and I don't go there. Even though it's the most convenient place for me to get a sandwich, I won't go there.
Yep.
The pre-made sandwiches at the liquor store half a block from my house is a hell of a lot better than Subway.
Yeah.
Well,
now one thing I would actually
preferred Submarina to Subway.
One place that I've always heard about that I would actually love for them to come here just so I can try them is White Castle.
Overrated, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
I tried them. We had one open here just recently. The first one in Florida or first one in Orlando or whatever. Recently, I went there once.
Yeah.
Their food is definitely overrated, especially like their nuggets and stuff. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Well, we've already got an entrenched place here in Wisconsin called Culver's, but the
we got them too, actually. Yeah.
People
nice.
talk about White Castle in glowing terms, and of course around here the only White Castle burgers you see are in vending machines. They're frozen, and I'm like, those can't be any good. What are you talking about? And I had no idea that there was also a restaurant. I figured they were just a line of frozen vending machine.
Well, somebody's never seen Harold and Kumar.
Right. Well, obviously when the movie came out and I heard about it, I'm like, okay, so I guess there is a White Castle, but yeah.
All right,
getting a phone
David,
call.
you're
I'll be
about
right
to
back.
get banned from my straight. I'm kidding, because I love In-N-Out Burger.
Yeah,
I've heard of In-N-Out Burger.
It's overrated. I agree.
What's funny is, I'd only been to White Castle once when I saw the Harold and Kumar movie. We lost LDG. Oh well.
Case of Rome.
I was visiting my sister out in Virginia, and she was like, "Oh, you guys have to go to White Castle," and I was thoroughly disappointed with their little slider burger things. I thought they were overcooked, undersized. And they're like, 2 of them should fill you up, and I'm like, I'm 9 years old, and 2 of them didn't even fill me up back then, and that was before I became fat kid.
Well, I became fascinated when I saw a little YouTube video about how they make them, because they don't actually fry their burgers; they steam them. They're called onion. The process is called onion steaming, where they put onions all over the grill, and then they put the burger patty on top of the onions, and they get steamed. They don't get fried. That's why the burgers are white. And I thought that was very interesting, and that made me.
That might be part of it because I have a mild basically intolerancy to onions. So that might be one of the aspects of why I didn't like them so much, was because even though I ordered it without onions, they just basically made me sick.
Yeah, they don't have a way of not having them be touched by onions. So yeah.
So.
But also, I like the decor, that Art Deco castle decor. I like, but I'm not going to go to a restaurant just because I like the decor of the building.
But yeah, I guess you could consider White Castle one of those so bad it's good restaurants. You could even Taco Bell would fit under that, based on how many people go there.
Taco Hell.
I remember one time I went to Taco Bell the week of there was a salmonella outbreak on the East Coast or something, food poisoning outbreak, and so obviously for a week, I don't think anybody nationwide went to Taco Bell except me. I'm like, this is a great time to go to Taco Bell. And the chances of getting sick were, it's all happening on the East Coast. It's not happening here. And, I remember when I pulled into the drive-through of Taco Bell up here, like, the guy it was one of those rare instances where the guy on the radio was actually in the restaurant.
Everybody I know, Taco Bell is somehow better than Del, in my opinion. I think El Taco's better.
And I said, yeah, can I get some tacos?
Go
And the
ahead.
guy's like, really? It's like, I've never had that happen before where I'm like, I pull up to a drive-through and I say, yeah, I'd like to get some tacos. And the guy on the radio goes, really? Because apparently I was like their only customer that day.
The busiest time for Taco Bell is during the World Series. That's when you want to avoid it if you love Taco Bell. Yeah, because whenever a player steals a base, Taco Bell gives out free tacos.
Interesting.
Yeah.
One of the one of the funny things is there's certain fast food places that I've never been to, even ones that are in my area, just because my dad didn't want to go to them. If my dad didn't want to go to them, we never went to them when I was a kid, and I never went to them after I stopped living in my dad's house, because I just never did. One of them is Long John Silver's, another one's Red Lobster, and another one for the longest time was Coney Island. We have a couple of Coney Islands up here, and I never went to any of them until I got a job at a place that was right next to a Coney Island, and I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it's hot dogs. I mean, you can't really fuck up hot dogs. So I went there and I got a couple of chili dogs, and I started I'm like, the next day for lunch, I'm like, God, I'm starting to crave one of those chili dogs from there. And then I expressed willpower and didn't go back. But I can totally see why they had some popularity there, because there's something about that beef sauce that they put on their chili dogs that stays with you,
Well, Long John Silver's is one of the ones that there was one in our area that me and the Vile Child, the eldest Vile Child, used to go to. It since it's been torn down, but the only problem I had with them is everything, and I do mean everything, is fried there.
Yeah.
There is no grilled fish. It's just everything is fried. But their hush puppies were definitely, one of the best things on there. Plus, they're big hunks of fish that were fried. Those were good. But everything else was so small that all you could taste was the oil it was fried in.
Wow.
Everything, just the hush puppies and the big hunks of fish, those you could actually taste what they were made out of. The cornbread, the fish.
Right.
They had this I want to say popcorn shrimp stuff, but it was actually made out of whitefish. My daughter ordered those, and I tried it, and I was like, all I can taste is oil.
Yeah.
There is no
I
fish
don't
there.
remember the last time I had Long John Silver's. And David, KFC chicken, Popeyes beans and rice.
I do like KFC's grilled chicken, and I can drink their gravy, but that's about the only things that are good there.
Salty. Yeah. Well, I remember the mac and cheese was pretty good, but it has an overdose of salt in it. You take a little tub of mac and cheese, you eat it, and all of a sudden you got to drink at least 2 cups of soda. But no, I like Culver's. I think that's probably the highest quality place.
Sorry, I'm muting myself because of dogs again.
Popeyes has great red beans and rice. KFC has great original recipe chicken. I don't like Popeyes chicken.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but the Popeyes here in San Diego, the chicken never tastes as good as it did in Texas.
It tastes rubbery.
So you have the same opinion of it. In Texas, Popeyes always tasted really good. In California, Popeyes just tastes off for some reason. I don't know if it's rubbery, but it definitely tastes off.
Yeah, that's why I rather just get KFC. It's about $2 more expensive, but hey, it's better. I'm gonna enjoy my food.
Yeah, but I can't do KFC's crispy chicken anymore because it's more breading than chicken.
Yeah.
That's why you get original recipe.
No, that's why I get grilled. That way I can taste the meat.
Oh.
Right. I didn't know they still made the grilled.
Well, they do at the one nearest my house.
Okay. Well, that's good to know.
I don't know if all of them still do that. But it's kind of like certain Carl's Jr.'s still have the teriyaki burger, which is my favorite burger of theirs.
Oh,
And
with the
so is
pineapple?
Stop. Yeah.
With the pineapple on? Yeah.
Well, as long as they grill the pineapple before they put it on the burger. If they don't grill the pineapple and they just throw a slice of pineapple on there, fuck them. You're supposed to grill it first.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember those teriyaki burgers.
Every once in a while, when I'm grilling burgers on the George Foreman grill, I'll get a ring of pineapple and put it, next to the burger, or grill it ahead of time and then put it on. It's amazes me how much heat a ring of pineapple can take from your grill before it starts to look like it's been grilled.
Well, I've never done it on a George Foreman grill, but I've grilled them on, just a regular grill. And as long as you put it right in the middle of the, because I use charcoal. If you put it right in the middle for like a minute to 45 seconds, and then flip it, then put it on the outside, it'll be fine.
If the mainland can actually taste what a real pineapple tastes like, you guys would be surprised. If you've never been to Hawaii, pineapple actually tastes sweeter than what's imported into the mainland.
I've had both, and I completely disagree. The Dole style pineapples are much sweeter than non-augmented pineapples.
I'm talking about the ones that are grown in Hawaii, because no pineapple is exported from Hawaii. All the pineapples that we get is from South America. The pineapples that are grown in Hawaii are sweeter than what's grown in South America.
I don't know about that.
Must be all that volcanic ash.
I don't know why, but I love the taste of Hawaiian pineapple.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, Hawaii doesn't have a lot of place to grow, a crop. They are islands. But
yeah, they haven't exported pineapple since the 50s.
Yeah.
Sorry, 70s.
Well, they probably just converted it into their tourism. I mean,
yeah, all the pineapples that are consumed on the island are grown on the island.
They grow their own spam there too. They raise the pigs.
God, it's like every dog in the friggin' neighborhood is barking at each other. It's nuts.
Talking to each other. Come on.
I might end the stream just because of that, because it's getting annoying to me.
Maybe something's going wrong in the neighborhood.
No, just dogs. They're just barking. When one starts barking, all the neighbors' dogs got to start barking.
Yeah.
I gotta do laundry soon anyway.
Well, I'm hoping Mrs. Vile can help me and buzz my head before we go out to her friend's birthday party. I haven't buzzed my head in like 2 weeks because of how busy it's been.
No, I gotta do laundry because I have to report for jury duty tomorrow.
Fun for you.
Yeah.
Well, since he hasn't said much, we'll go back to the original topic.
They're not going to disqualify you?
What?
They're not going to disqualify you?
Why?
Well, I mean, all the things you said publicly.
Yeah, show the attorneys your YouTube channel. They'll probably dismiss you right away.
Yeah.
But to go back to the original topic, and since Candor hasn't said anything, Candor, do you have a so good it's bad or so bad it's good movie that you'd recommend?
I think you named most of them because I love the original Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Trying to think if there's another one besides that. Trying to think. I like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but that's actually a pretty good movie.
The original or the remake?
I like both, as long as it's the one with what is it, Donald
Donald
Sutherland?
Sutherland.
That would be
it was
the
the
remake. Yeah.
That
Remake.
was the remake. Is that one is still good to me as the original. Um, I guess if you're asking for kind of goofy sci-fi movies, I like Last Starfighter, um, which was pretty goofy when you think about it.
Yeah, Last Starfighter was good. It was almost goofy as Wing Commander.
Yeah, yeah, but it's it's better to me than Wing. So that Last Starfighter is a guilty pleasure, I guess, if you want to get into kind of corny sci-fi movies. Because it is kind of corny in a way. What else is there that's a guilty pleasure?
Okay, I think it's funny. I was typing Last Starfighter on the list, and I
Uh-huh.
misspelled Starfighter.
Yeah.
So I did my little right click to correct it, and of course it did correct it to Starfighter. But
Yeah.
according to Microsoft Word, it has no dictionary definition, but that's the correct spelling.
Well, the F-104 Starfighter. There are actual things in the world that we have created that we call starfighters. So, it's
Yeah. That's a 80s movie, right? Kind of like I guess another
Starfighter, as in
guilty.
there was F-104.
I guess another goofy guilty pleasures, the two Cocoon movies, uh, even though they're pretty corny in a way too.
Yay, old people in the swimming pool living forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Beating
And
a bunch of
I'm
black
glad I
guys
was able
at
to pull that one
basketball.
off. Yes, the F-104 was the Starfighter.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like it.
Featured in Star Trek episode of Yesterday is Tomorrow, or Tomorrow is Yesterday.
Yeah, and
Tomorrow is Yesterday.
that was the only plane that they had ever in a Star Trek show, right? Only a jet, right? Or no?
The only jet. I don't think they encountered another jet. They encountered Amelia Earhart on Voyager.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I
The
don't- I don't
37s,
think her-
right?
Yeah, I don't think her plane was with her though.
No.
Yeah, the plane
Yeah, but that was a
They found
jet.
the plane. They found, no jets.
And I know Enterprise featured the Bell X-1, but that was a rocket plane, not a star.
That's
jet.
right. Yeah, the Enterprise
Plane,
NX-01
so-
also fought Stukas over New York City and was shot at by P-51 Mustangs in the same
okay.
story. Yeah, those weren't jets though; they were just pistol prop airplanes.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, still.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still, one of my favorite parts of Enterprise was that dog
Well, plus
fight
there's
over New York City.
the other piston. Prop plane.
Yeah, and then another guilty pleasures. I guess most of the early Police Academy movies. I guess.
Before they got
formulaic.
formulaic.
Yeah,
Before they went on
probably.
patrol.
Yeah,
Russia.
yeah. At least the first three or so were okay.
Yeah,
back
things
when
on
we used to
patrol in
think
Russia, no.
back when we used to think that involuntary, unsolicited blowjobs are funny.
Yeah. And then
What, kinda like
Revenge of the
Ghostbusters?
Nerd. Yeah, Revenge of the
Podium.
Nerds.
The podium in Police Academy.
The
What are
podium
you talking
in the
about?
Police Academy.
Yeah,
Which
Revenge
became
of
a
the
rec-
Nerds.
Became a
obviously.
recurring gag. Yeah, Revenge of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds is obviously a guilty pleasure.
Booger!
Along with gosh, what is that one movie? Shoot, with
Animal House.
yeah, oh yeah, Animal House. I mean, all those movies back then. Porky's.
Yeah, Animal House, I think, was the proto for that entire genre, though. The idea
Yeah.
of the zany college-age comedy.
Yeah. Porky's is a classic, obviously.
Porky's, I want to say something about Porky's was that movie that you heard about when you were a kid, and maybe your friend's older brother had claimed to have seen it.
Yeah.
But you know, what's so funny was this legendary movie when I was growing up as a kid that I never got to see, and then as an adult I saw it, I think on Cinemax or something. I'm like, this is it. This is what this was that legendary movie. This is terrible.
Darren, that reminds me because when I was a kid, the first console video game series or video game console that was ever given to me was an Atari 7800.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the games that came with it was Porky's the video game for the Atari 2600. They were backwards compatible. Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at the cover, looking at the game, playing the game, and being like, this is the stupidest thing ever. How the hell was there a movie based on this game, which I had entirely wrong? And I'm like, I avoided that movie for the longest time because I thought the game was so bad.
Yeah.
Well, if you were in that realm, then yeah, you would have hated E.T. because that was an infamous bad car.
That game sucked.
Yeah, they back then what they would do is they would create the game first, and then they would get the license and they would just make whatever tiny little modifications they could to make it resemble in some way the movie, and that was it. And slap the art from the movie poster on the cartridge, and away you go. I mean, if you look at for example, the classic game Journey Escape, which was named after their album, there is nothing about that game has anything to do with specifically with the band Journey. It's just little stick men trying to avoid groupies in a hallway and a bunch of other little levels, and that's it.
All right. I will say, except for E.T., because E.T., they got the license to make the game before they made the game, which is one of the reasons it was so bad. But to go back to Journey, since you brought it up, when I was still working for Sony, one of the games I was testing was a game called Journey for the PlayStation 3.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were first told the title of the game we were going to be working on, I made the joke, Darren, oh, they're making a sequel to the Journey the Escape for the Atari, and nobody in the entire room got it. Because I'm like, I'm not the oldest one here. How has no one ever played Journey the Escape for the Atari? And most of the people there hadn't even heard of the band Journey. I felt so out of place amongst nerds.
Don't stop believing.
Yeah, they only play that song to death, but anyway.
I've got the commercial lined up.
Well, I'm not going to play it because YouTube's been really adamant about copyright shit lately.
Well, then how am I getting the video?
No, I'm talking about on my live streams. I actually had my live stream a couple weeks, or like 2 or 3 weeks ago, blocked on YouTube for a 15-second music clip on a 3-hour live stream.
It's a 30-second ad. There's no 15 seconds of music in this.
We'll see what happens. I'll bring it up, but if I get blocked, I gotta delete this section out, which sucks.
All right.
Data Age presents the world's first rock video game, Journey Escape. The concert's over. Now you must help each member of Journey escape through mobs of love-crazed groupies, shifty-eyed promoters,
I can get you the forest.
and sneaky photographers.
No pitch. Move.
Find your roadies and manager,
You've got 10 minutes.
and run for the escape vehicle, and live to rock another day. Journey Escape for the Atari 2600 from Data Age.
So you're playing
So
asteroids, basically.
as you can see, that could have been anything. Just,
Okay.
I mean,
is anyone else going to point out the fact that it's Casey Kasem doing the ad, though?
I know. I was going to say something.
he added some gravitas to that ad. That's for sure. But they show you like a hallway and like trying to dodge shady promoter and the guys, and all this kind of stuff. And none of that's like in the game. It's just how they sell it. That was funny.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream. I got a list of stuff to watch now, or rewatch in some cases.
Yeah, I gotta do laundry.
But I still
Thanks
got
for having me.
right now. The next two things on my list are to finish Cobra Kai season 4, and to finally start For All Mankind. Those are the two things that are highest up on my list. I'm not gonna watch Lower Decks yet, even though I like Lower Decks. That's something I got to watch with the Vile Child because we enjoy that together. But yeah, those are the two things I want to watch on my own next. Well, and One Piece. Mrs. Vile and I are watching that together, and we are thoroughly enjoying it, despite the fact that we never watch the anime and we don't read the manga.
Okay, well, that's good. All righty. Well, thanks for having me. I'll see you guys later.
All right, and I will end the stream. Well, which one should I end it with? This Gangnam Style again, or because for some reason that one's not getting copyrighted. The other one seemed to be getting copyrighted. So should I just do Gangnam Style by getting shot by the Fraser?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
More singing, more voices.
Help the Klingons hoorah! Open Klingon style. Klingon style. Open Klingon style. Klingon style. Open Klingon style. Hey, sexy Klingon style. Open Klingon style. Hey, sexy Klingon style.
All right, you're 19 years old now. I figure it's about time you got one after all your complaining.